Chapter 69. She quickly recovered and turned to look at Su Jichuan. Su Jichuan was lying motionless on the ground. His face was frozen in disbelief. She did not need to look at his breath to know that he was dead. She was shocked and turned to look at Chu Li. Chu Li nodded. I killed him. This. Chen Siyu's expression changed. If he killed Su Jichuan, he would be hunted down by the entire startling Cloud faction. Even if he was a guard of the public house, he would not be able to defend against the masters of the startling Cloud faction. Hurry up and leave. She quickly pushed Chu Li. Chu Li asked, What about you? I. Chen Siyu frowned. Chu Li stared at her. You want to stay? Chen Siyu thought for a while and finally shook her head. She gritted her teeth and said, Then let's go together. Actually, you don't have to go. Chu Li smiled. You have confidence in the startling Cloud faction, right? Chen Siyu looked at him in confusion and nodded. Chu Li said, Do you think this is an opportunity to control the startling Cloud faction? Ah. Chen Siyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Chu Li smiled. Impossible? He died here. How could they? Chen Siyu shook her head. Besides, I'm a woman. He still has 2 sons. It's not my turn. This was beyond her imagination. She had never thought of this before. Chu Li said, His 2 sons are still young, right? Yes, they were sent out to learn martial arts. Chen Siyu nodded. A dragon without a head is not a long-term solution. They can't inherit the position of the faction leader. As the wife of the young faction leader, you should inherit the position. Impossible. I'm a woman. Nothing is impossible in this world. What's the harm in trying? Chen Siyu looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, You're a woman. If you want to be safe in this world, it's best to have power. With the startling Cloud faction in your hands, I can go back with peace of mind. Aunt Xiao can also be at ease. Can it really work? Chen Siyu hesitated. She didn't want to be a gang leader. She just wanted to find a quiet and safe place to live her life in peace. But thinking about the ways of the world, there was no such thing as a quiet and safe place. If she was weak, she would be bullied, especially with her looks. Since ancient times, beautiful women often had unlucky lives. Rather than letting an outsider take advantage of it, it's better to take control of the startling Cloud Association. Chu Li said, If it really doesn't work out, you can follow me back to the public house. All right. Chen Siyu nodded slowly. Chu Li said, The most important thing now is to overcome this obstacle. First, summon all the higher-ups of the startling Cloud Association. Okay. Chen Siyu nodded and called out to Yuer to come in. Yuer had been guarding the door, listening to the movements inside. When he heard the commotion, he rushed in and saw Su Jichuan lying on the ground. He was shocked and quickly looked at Chen Siyu and Chu Li. Chen Siyu said, Yuer, go and greet clan leader Hu. Tell him to come over immediately. Yes. Yuer hurriedly ran out. Chen Siyu turned her head and looked at Chu Li. Are you going to frame Xiaolun? Chu Li glanced at her. As expected, she was not an ordinary person. She managed to calm herself down and think of a solution in such a short time. Chen Siyu said, Or should I say that his illness is acting up? Chu Li said, Send him back to his room and pretend that you don't know anything. For the sake of Chen Siyu's reputation, of course, he could not let Su Jichuan stay here. He had to send him back quietly. Fortunately, Su Jichuan had already asked the protectors to go back and rest. Chen Siyu nodded with a heavy heart, the fat and strong clan leader of the Thunder Clan, who quickly came over. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Su Jichuan in the courtyard. His face changed. He quickly walked over and called out, Association leader? Association leader. He checked his breathing and his face became gloomy. He looked up at Chen Siyu. Chen Siyu bowed. Elder Hu, what happened? Hu Hai scoffed and looked at Chu Li. Chen Siyu's eyes were red. She sobbed. Father, Hu Hai looked at Chu Li suspiciously. Chu Li fist saluted. I am Chen Li. Greetings, clan leader. Hu. Chen Siyu faintly sighed. If cousin brother is not here this time, I am afraid that I will not be able to live anymore. Hu Hai looked at Su Jichuan, who was lying on the ground. He was the founding elder of the faction. Of course, he knew Su Jichuan's character. No matter how well Su Jichuan hid it, the way he looked at Chen Siyu was not right. Hu Hai, who knew Su Jichuan well, had already noticed it. He could only sigh to himself. This kind of family matter was not something that outsiders could interfere with. Hu Hai sighed. He felt speechless. He stood up. Then, how did the association leader do this? Clan leader it was me who did this, Chu Li said. He took a step and moved 10 meters away. In a flash, he returned to his original position. It was like smoke. It was so fast that people thought he had not moved at all. Hu Hai was shocked. This body movement. He looked at Chu Li. He was definitely an innate master. An acquired master would not be able to use such a body movement technique. But he was so young. This cousin brother of the young madam was not an ordinary person. He blurted out, May I know which faction Master Chen Li is from? Chu Li shook his head and said apologetically, This, I understand. Hu Hai nodded. It should be some hidden faction. These factions often had disciples with amazing skills. They walked the martial arts world in a low-key and mysterious manner. They kept their own origins a secret. Hu Hai felt a little complicated. Although the association leader's actions had angered people and gods, he died just like that. It was too useless. Moreover, he died in the hands of a young man. It was a great irony. Chen Siyu said, Actually, Master Chen is not my cousin brother. Hu Hai's eyes widened again. Chen Siyu sighed. When I was in the martial arts world, I met a good sister. She is an official disciple of Green Deer Cliff. She sent Master Chen here. Is Master Chen a disciple of Green Deer Cliff? Hu Hai's eyes widened. The official disciples of Green Deer Cliff were only female. Men could only be external disciples. However, it did not mean that external disciples were bad in martial arts. It was still amazing in the martial arts world. After all, it was one of the 4 major sections. However, external disciples of Green Deer Cliff were not allowed to walk the martial arts world. Only the official disciples could leave the cliff. Hu Hai understood why Chu Li refused to reveal his faction. If Green Deer Cliff knew, it would not end well. Chu Li smiled and did not deny it. No wonder. Hu Hai nodded in realization. The association leader's martial arts was tyrannical. Even if he was blinded by lust, he would not be defenseless. It was no wonder that he was a disciple of Green Deer Cliff. Young madam, you should leave quickly. Hu Hai sighed. Take advantage of the fact that everyone doesn't know. You can't stay in Cloud State Town anymore. Chen Siyu shook her head. I don't want to leave. The Startling Cloud Association is Yun Peng's foundation. I can't abandon it. Young madam, you wanna? Hu Hai's eyes widened. Chen Siyu slowly said, Yes, I want to take over the Startling Cloud Association. Please help me, Elder Hu. Young madam, how dare you? Hu Hai smiled bitterly. You should know that it's impossible. Everything depends on human effort. Chen Siyu said, Now that my father-in-law is dead, do you want to give the Startling Cloud Association to someone else? This, Hu Hai muttered. Chen Siyu said, Once there is no leader, I'm afraid that no one will obey anyone. The Startling Cloud Association will fall apart. Elder Hu, do you have the heart to let the foundation that you worked so hard to build disappear? Sigh. Hu Hai let out a long sigh. The association leader was too strong. Even the elders who fought for the association were suppressed. This caused no one in the association to be able to convince the masses. Although Hu Hai was an elder, he was also one of the 4 clan leaders of the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. If he were to become the association leader, there would be countless opponents. No one would be able to convince the masses. As a result, no one would be willing to be the association leader. They would definitely take a group of people with them. As the #1 association in Cloud State Town, once it split, it would be like a piece of fat meat that would be swallowed up immediately. The startling Cloud Association would vanish into thin air. Hu Hai's face was gloomy. If the young madam became the association leader, it would not be so intense. The young association leader was quite popular. There were many supporters like Hu Hai in the association. It was not impossible to transfer the support of the young association leader to the young madam. The young association leader was close to him. He would secretly take care of the young madam. Once the young madam became the association leader, Hu Hai's status would also rise. He would become a confidant and would no longer be suppressed. It would be much better than his current situation. Chu Li did not say a word. He did not want to give the impression that he was meddling in the internal affairs of the Startling Cloud Association. Elder Hu, once the Startling Cloud Association splits, it will be difficult for everyone to have a good ending. Chen Siyu frowned. The Equal of Heaven Association will not let go of this opportunity. Hu Hai slowly nodded. What the young madam said makes sense. Once the Startling Cloud Association splits, it would be difficult for the elders to have a good ending. Even if they joined the Equal of Heaven Association, the Equal of Heaven Association would not be at ease. They would secretly get rid of Hu Hai in order to completely control the Startling Cloud Association. Chen Siyu said, "I'm just a weak woman. Even if I become the association leader, it will only be in name. I still have to rely on the elders like you, Elder Hu. If the Startling Cloud Association is destroyed because of me, I won't be able to face Yun Peng after I die." Sigh. Hu Hai sighed and gritted his teeth. "All right, young madam, I will do my best. If that's the case, I'll leave everything to you, Elder Hu." Chen Siyu bowed. Hu Hai quickly waved his hand. "Now, let's settle the matter of the association leader first. Otherwise, it will be a big mess." Chen Siyu said, "I will send my father-in-law back to his room. I will pretend to have found him by accident tomorrow morning." "That's good." Hu Hai nodded. "Young madam, you're very meticulous. Maybe in your hands, the Startling Cloud Association will advance further. I'm just a woman. What do I know? I'm just a little smart. I still need to rely on you, Elder Hu, for the important matters of the association." Chen Siyu shook her head. Hu Hai closed fists saluted. "For the sake of young madam's reputation, I will take action tomorrow." Chen Siyu nodded lightly. The two of them were on the same boat. After Hu Hai left, Chu Li picked up Su Jichuan's corpse and disappeared in a flash. Soon, he appeared again in a flash. Chen Siyu let out a long sigh of relief. She asked in a low voice, "How did I do?" Chu Li smiled. "My cousin sister really has the talent to be the association leader." Chapter 70. Early in the morning, the entire Su mansion was solemn. The servants walked quietly, and the entire mansion was quiet. No one made a sound. In the main hall, 6 people sat together, quarreling. The higher-ups of the Startling Cloud faction were gathered. The 4 hall leaders, Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning, and the 2 guardians. Gang Master Su Jichuan died, without a sound. It was extremely sudden. This morning, when the servant knocked on the door, there was no movement. He did not dare to barge into the bedroom and reported to the young mistress. She had someone break into the bedroom and found faction leader Su Jichuan dead peacefully on the bed. They were shocked and in disbelief that their wise and powerful faction leader had died so suddenly. After checking, they determined that it was due to cultivation deviation. He had suddenly left the startling Cloud faction, leaving behind a huge problem. For hall leaders and 2 guardians, the 6 of them sat there to discuss how to deal with the aftermath. Should they hold a secret funeral or hold a grand funeral? Also, the country could not be without a ruler for a day. Who should be the faction leader? The 4 hall leaders were the founding elders of the faction and had a group of loyal subordinates. However, under Su Jichuan's deliberate suppression, they could only do whatever they wanted in the hall. The other 3 halls did not listen to them. As for the 2 guardians, they did not have a strong foundation and were not a threat. They all understood that if they had a falling out and the startling Cloud faction split, the covetous equal of heaven would definitely devour them. That was why they had to maintain the integrity of the startling Cloud faction. However, they were not satisfied with letting someone else be the faction leader. In the end, Guardian Su Anxia said that the young mistress could be the faction leader and replace the young master in inheriting the faction. Once this suggestion was made, everyone fell silent and looked at each other. The young mistress was a woman. They could not imagine the startling Cloud faction listening to a woman's orders. Moreover, she was not the faction leader's son. Unfortunately, no one knew where the faction leader's 2 sons had gone to learn martial arts. They were too young and could not handle such a big responsibility. I think the young mistress is suitable. Hu Hai stroked his beard and scoffed. The young mistress is fair and virtuous. She has a good reputation in the faction, and everyone in the faction respects her. But she is still a woman. The Wind Hall leader muttered. Hu Hai scoffed. The disciples of Green Deer Cliff are all women. Who can compare? Well, everyone shook their heads helplessly. This was true, but there were not many disciples in Green Deer Cliff, and this world was still a man's world. It would be awkward to listen to a woman's orders, and they would not be able to raise their heads when they went out. Hu Hai said, "The most important thing right now is to prevent the equal of Heaven Association from taking advantage of the situation. Don't tell me you want to be the leader yourself. If you don't have that fate, you should give up early and obediently assist young madam." Old Hu, you're right, but the hall master of the Cloud Hall was a handsome middle-aged man. He stroked his beard and sighed. This is a little too childish. Hu Hai scoffed. Elder Ma, as long as young madam is here, the startling Cloud faction is here. If we can work together, who would be convinced? They fought to the death for the position of the gang leader, and in the end, none of them survived. Zheng Gongming, who had been taking a nap with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and said slowly, "Young madam has a soft and tenacious nature. She is worthy of being a heroine. She can be the leader of the association. Since old Zheng has spoken, what else can I do wrong?" Hu Hai chuckled. Su Anxia did not say anything. Compared to the 5 people in the hall, he was too inexperienced. His words carried too little weight. It was already rare that his suggestion was accepted. All right, then young madam will be the leader. The white-haired hall master of the Electricity Clan said in a deep voice. That's right. Hu Hai clapped his hands. I hope this choice is right. The moonlight was like water enveloping the garden of the Su residence. Chu Li and Chen Siyu sat at the stone table, admiring the flowers and chatting casually. The lanterns illuminated the garden, making it look like a dream. I didn't expect. Chen Siyu shook her head gently. She originally thought that it would be difficult and almost impossible to achieve, but she did not expect it to be so smooth. After a day, The position of the leader of the startling Cloud faction was hers. She felt very surreal, as if she was in a dream. The leader of the startling Cloud faction. This was a position that she had never thought about. As the leader of the startling Cloud faction, she had a high position and power. It could be said that she was half the owner of the Cloud State town. If she stomped her feet, the entire Cloud State town would tremble. Chuli smiled and looked at her. He did not need the omniscient mirror to know her current state. The difference between the young madam and the leader of the startling Cloud faction was like heaven and earth. It was no wonder that she lost her composure. Elder cousin sister, the position of the leader is not so easy. He poured a bucket of cold water on Chen Siyu to calm her down. Chen Siyu looked at him in confusion. Chuli said, "Can you suppress the 4 clan leaders, the 2 guardians, the guests, and even the ordinary faction members?" Chen Siyu suddenly frowned and finally shook her head. As a woman, she was born weak and her martial arts skills were not good enough. It was almost impossible for her to suppress these elders who had a strong foundation. Chuli said, "If I can't suppress them, I can only be a puppet. It's not fun to be the leader." "Then what should we do?" Chen Siyu frowned and asked, "Coax and divide, check and balance each other. We can't let them be united, lest they make you a mere figurehead." Chen Siyu was deep in thought. Chuli smiled. Chen Siyu was a smart person. She was also calculative and calm. She had a lot of potential. With a little more training, it was not impossible for her to hold the position of the leader. Chuli waited for a while to give her time to think, then said, "If it doesn't work, we can only be ruthless." Force was the fastest way to solve problems. Only giving orders would be useless. The most important thing for the leader was to use force to intimidate others. "Don't bleed unless it's absolutely necessary," Chen Siyu said. If he killed the elders when he just took the position of leader, it would make people's hearts waver. It would not be good for him to control the startling Cloud faction. The Equal of Heaven Association would definitely hit him when he was down. The startling Cloud faction would probably be in turmoil. Chuli said, "I'll solve one for you before I leave." Chen Siyu looked at him. Chuli smiled. "Don't tell me you want to reform those who have evil intentions towards you. But if we kill now—" Chen Siyu hesitated. Chuli said, "How can we establish our authority if we don't kill? If we don't establish our authority? As a woman, no one will listen to you." "Kill who?" Chen Siyu sighed. She was in a dilemma. She felt that killing was bad, but she also felt that what Chuli said made sense. Without deterrence, she, the leader, was just a puppet. The clan leader of the Wind Clan. Chuli smiled. He colluded with the Equal of Heaven Association. Chen Siyu was shocked. It can't be? Although her father-in-law was a beast, he was very skillful and had sharp eyes. It was hard to believe that there was someone around him who betrayed him, and he did not know. Chuli said, "Leader Su might have known." Chen Siyu looked at him in confusion. Chuli sighed. Leader Su was too confident. He felt that he could control the situation and that everything was under his control. So, he deliberately pretended not to know to numb the Equal of Heaven Association. At the critical moment, he wanted to do something ruthless. Chen Siyu frowned and pondered. Listening to all these twists and turns gave her a headache. It seemed that she was still far from it. If she wanted to stabilize her position as the leader, she needed to learn a lot. Chuli said, "Leader Su is playing with fire. Elder cousin sister, you can't do this. So, we need to remove this nail first. This will establish our authority in the faction and also give the Equal of Heaven Association a show of strength." Establishing authority. Chen Siyu suddenly understood. Chuli smiled. "There's no rush. You should prepare yourself. This association leader's position isn't that comfortable. Keep your spirits up. I can handle it. Chen Siyu bit her red lips. This was a matter of life and death. She was a weak woman. If she really stepped down from the position of the leader, even if she could keep her life, she would become someone else's plaything. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He was very satisfied. She was smart. With the pressure of life and death, she believed that she could do well. However, she lacked the means to protect herself. It was still very dangerous. What martial arts do you practice? I practice the rainfall tactics and the rainfall sword technique. They are martial arts passed down in my family. Have you practiced anything else? No. Do you have any trump cards to protect yourself? Ultimate swordsmanship. I have a martial art here. You can use it at the last moment. Chu Li took out a thin booklet. Chen Siyu was surprised and took it. She lowered her head and looked at it. Blade of Eternity. She had heard of this martial art. It was said that it was very powerful. However, it could only be used once. It was either you or I die. Chu Li took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to her. This is the energy pill. When you really need to use the Blade of Eternity, take this first. After a quarter of an hour, use the Blade of Eternity. You can recover your inner energy in time and have the power to fight again. The Blade of Eternity can only be used once, right? You can only use it once. But take the energy pill first and recover your inner energy in time. You will have the power to fight again, but remember not to use the Blade of Eternity again. Why? The Blade of Eternity is too much of a burden on your meridians. If you use it twice, your meridians will not be able to bear it. It will be life-threatening. He had the life and death scripture to strengthen his meridians. He also practiced the minute pulse cleansing technique. Coupled with the strengthening from the tendon refiner, he could use the Blade of Eternity many times. Others could not. After using it twice, their meridians would collapse and they would become disabled or even die. Chen Siyu looked at Chu Li deeply. She pursed her red lips and did not say any words of gratitude. Chu Li said, "The rainfall technique is not bad. The rain sword technique is not bad either. As long as you practice it well, you will be able to become a first-class master. The key is to break through to the innate mastery. The energy pill can help you. I will bring you a few bottles when I go back." No need, no need. Chen Siyu quickly shook her head. She also knew about the energy pill. It was a unique medicine of the House of High Dukes. It had a strong effect on replenishing inner energy. It was rarely sold outside the public house. The people of the martial arts world regarded it as a treasure. Chu Li was generous. He gave her a bottle, and he wanted to give her more. She did not dare to accept it. Chu Li smiled. The energy pill is precious in the martial arts world. It is nothing in the public house. You need it to speed up your cultivation. As the leader of the faction, it is not a long-term plan if your martial arts cannot convince the masses. All right. Chen Siyu sighed. The startling Cloud Association also had pills, but it was only a third-rate faction. It was worlds apart from the House of High Dukes. Chapter 71. Su Anxia and Zheng Gongming sat in the main hall, leisurely drinking tea. Chen Siyu was different from Su Zhichuan. Her martial arts were not strong, and she had to be on guard against a master's sneak attack. Ever since it was decided that the young madam would inherit the position of the leader, they had not left the Su residence. The 4 clan leaders and the 2 guardians decided to keep the funeral a secret. They told the public that the old leader was seriously ill and bedridden. The position had been passed on to the young madam. "Uncle Zheng, can the young madam be a good leader?" Su Anxia got up and walked a few steps. He could not stand sitting for a long time. The main hall was brightly lit as if it was daytime. Zhang Gongming sat on an armchair. He stroked his beard and closed his eyes like an old monk in meditation. "Uncle Zhang!" Su Anxia shouted angrily. "Uncle Zhang!" "You!" Zhang Gongming opened his eyes and stroked his beard as he shook his head. "As guardians, we can't care so much. We just have to do our part. We are considered the higher-ups in the organization. Of course, we have to worry," Su Anxia said. Zhang Gongming smiled. "You're overstepping your authority. Our duty is to protect the leader. We don't have to care about anything else. I don't think they have good intentions." Su Anxia scoffed. "They're all cunning old foxes. Can the young madam fight against them? You underestimate the young madam." Zhang Gongming said lightly. Su Anxia shook his head. "No matter how smart the young madam is, she's still young. They are experienced and have a strong foundation. The subordinates listen to them. The young madam's words may not be effective. Take it slow. The young madam's youth is both a weakness and a strength." Su Anxia pouted. "How long do we have to wait? As the leader, if I can't give orders, I might as well not be the leader." Zhang Gongming smiled. "The leader is always in the limelight, but he has to work hard in secret. No one is an exception. Do you think the old leader has a good life? The old leader has high prestige. They can't do anything." Su Anxia pouted. "Everyone has their own plans. It's too difficult for the young madam. You can say these things in front of me, but don't say it outside." Zhang Gongming said seriously. "Be careful of your words." Su Anxia smiled and said, "I'm not stupid. I'll just complain in front of you, Uncle Zhang." In short, our mission is to protect the faction leader and not let anyone take advantage of him. Don't interfere with other matters. You should focus on breaking through to the innate realm. "Yes," Su Anxia helplessly agreed. He felt that there was only a thin layer of window paper left in the innate realm, but he couldn't break through it. He was anxious. "Who is it?" All of a sudden, Zhang Gongming leaped up and stood up. His lazy demeanor from before was gone. He placed his hand on his long sword and stared at the old man who had just stepped into the hall. His face immediately darkened. It was Zhao Luan of the Mountain Split. To be able to sneak into the hall without him noticing, this Qinggong was definitely not something he could achieve. His cultivation level was far higher than his. "Who are you?" Su Anxia drew his sword and charged at the black-robed old man. The black-clothed old man was thin, short, and dry like a farmer in the countryside. However, his temples were bulging, his eyes flashed, and his palms were wide and eye-catching. His expression did not change as he casually waved his palm to meet Su Anxia's long sword. Ding! Su and sword fell from his hand. He staggered 3 steps back with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. He stared at the black-clothed old man in disbelief. Zhao Luan of the Mountain Split. Zhang Gongming stood in front of Su Anxia and drew his sword. He said coldly, "How dare you?" The black-clothed old man laughed coldly. "I am Zhao Luan," Zhang Gongming scoffed. "You barged into the Su residence alone. How dare you? I'm going to destroy the Su family today. If you know what's good for you, move aside." "How arrogant of you. Go ahead." Zhao Luan looked at Zhang Gongming in disdain. Su Anxia clutched his chest and sat on the ground. His expression was weary as he was seriously injured. Zhang Gongming slowly thrust his sword forward. He did not want to be successful, but he wanted to avoid making mistakes. Zhao Luan waved his palm in response. His palms were like cattail leaf fans, big and wide. He looked clumsy, but he was actually very agile. Every palm avoided the tip of the sword and hit the blade. His inner energy flowed along the sword, and into Zhang Gongming's arms. Zhang Gongming's face darkened as he drew his sword. Zhao Luan lived up to his name. His inner energy was strange and pure. Zhang Gongming could not block it. It was like needles were stabbing into his dantian and hindering the flow of his inner energy. The power of his swordsmanship was greatly reduced. Su Anxia took advantage of the two fighting and slowly moved to the main hall. When he was about to reach the entrance, he threw out a whistling arrow. Bang! The whistling arrow flew into the sky and exploded into a golden longsword. It was bright and eye-catching in the night sky. The entire Cloud State town could see it. He let out a long sigh of relief and fell to the ground. Zhang Gongming's spirit was lifted. Once the whistling arrow was released, help would arrive soon. He only needed to hold on for a few minutes. Zhao Luan laughed coldly. He did not care. He had investigated the startling Cloud Association. There were only 4 or 5 innate masters. Their martial arts were not strong, so there was nothing to be afraid of. The mountain-splitting palm that he cultivated was very powerful. He did not feel any pressure when facing an innate master. He had never lost a battle until now. He knew that the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Therefore, he had always been very careful. Once he became enemies, he would kill them all. He wanted to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. He did not expect that no matter how careful he was, he still could not avoid tragedy. His son was killed. If he did not destroy the Su family, his son would not rest in peace. Bang! Zhang Gongming's chest was hit. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He did not dare to retreat. He waved his sword to block the storm-like palm attack. He was in a precarious situation. Who's there? A shout was heard. The leader of the Thunder Clan, Hu Hai, had arrived. His voice was like thunder, exploding in the living room. Zhang Gongming's spirit was lifted. He quickly said, "Elder Hu, this guy is difficult to handle. Let's fight together." "All right." Hu Hai agreed immediately. He pounced forward with his fists like stones. They came down quickly and fiercely. "Who is this old man?" The mountain-splitting palm, Zhao Luan. Zhang Gongming gritted his teeth. "This old man." Hu Hai scoffed. He met Zhao Luan's palm attack. "Good, interesting." He took 2 steps back. He was shocked. This Zhao Luan really lived up to his name. His palm attack was strange, and his inner energy was profound. He was not his opponent. Not only did this not make him afraid, it made him even more excited. It was exciting when the opponent was powerful. "Ha! This is great." He laughed and waved his fists. He kept meeting Zhao Luan's palm attack. In the blink of an eye, the fists and the palms met 10 times. There was blood at the corner of Hu Hai's mouth. He was already injured. Zhang Gongming was in a worse state. He swayed and struggled to support his sword. However, his tenacity was shocking. He was about to fall, but he did not fall. "Elder Hu, Elder Zhang, I'm here." The leader of the Thunder Clan arrived. He waved his sword and attacked. Zhang Gongming let out a long sigh and sat on the ground weakly. Zhao Luan of the Mountain split. The leader of the Wind Clan and the leader of the Rain Clan arrived too. They waved their swords and joined the battle. The 4 clan leaders surrounded him. 2 knives, 1 sword, and 1 fist. Zhao Luan was in a bad situation, but he had no intention of retreating. Instead, he fought bravely. His palms were like millstones protecting his body. "No, I'm retreating." Hu Hai yelled. He fell on his butt and spat out another mouthful of blood. He was seriously injured. Su Anxia knew that he could not help. He gave Zhang Gongming some medicine and passed 2 pills to Hu Hai. Hu Hai opened his mouth, full of blood. He threw the pills into his mouth and chewed them fiercely. He stared at the scene. The hall was as bright as day. 2 knives and a sword were attacking a pair of palms, but they could not gain the upper hand. Hu Hai spat out another mouthful of blood. He swallowed it and turned his head. Elder Zheng, this is bad. Take the leader and leave. Leave? Zheng Gongming shook his head and smiled bitterly. I can't walk anymore. Young Su, go take the leader and hide. Hu Hai pointed at Su Anxia. Su Anxia hesitated. Clan leader, we can't defeat him? This old man is too powerful. Hu Hai shook his head. Elder, he and the others can only block him for a while. They won't be able to hold on for much longer. Let the leader retreat. All right. Su Anxia gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Chu Li and Chen Xiu were admiring the moon in the garden. Bang! The whistling arrow exploded in the air and a golden sword appeared. Chen Xiu's expression changed. This is an emergency signal from the faction. No one is allowed to move. Only the clan leaders are allowed to move. Chu Li said, Zhao Luan is here. They can't stop him. Guardian Su and Guardian Zheng are here tonight. Chen Xiu frowned. The other 4 clan leaders have gone to bury my father-in-law. Zhao Luan really knows how to pick a time. Zhao Luan is very powerful. Chu Li said. What should we do? Chen Xiu looked at Chu Li. Should we leave first? Let's wait and see. Chu Li shook his head. Chen Xiu looked at his calm expression and inexplicably calmed her heart. The garden was silent. After a while, Su Anxia hurried over. His face was pale, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. Leader! Jiang Yu'er followed behind him and ran over in panic. Chen Xiu calmed down and slowly asked, Guardian Su, what's the situation? Leader, Zhao Luan is unstoppable. Guardian Zheng and clan leader, who are struggling to hold on. Let's find a place to hide first. Su Anxia hurriedly said. He came over to grab Chen Xiu. They had to hide before Zhao Luan. If they were really caught by Zhao Luan, they would die. Chen Xiu withdrew her hand and frowned. Guardian Su, why are you panicking? Su Anxia hurriedly said. Leader, let's go. We can't dawdle. Chen Xiu looked calm. Guardian Zheng and the others can't stop him? They can't. Su Anxia hurriedly said. The 4 clan leaders have arrived. They can only stop him for a while to buy time for us to escape. Chen Xiu said. Even 5 of them are not his match. Yes. Do you think you can run away? Let's hide first. Su Anxia hurriedly said. Chen Xiu shook her head. Chu Li said, let's go and see. Chen Xiu looked at his determined expression. She took a deep breath and decided to give it a try. Guardian Su, lead the way. Chapter 72. Chu Li closed, fist saluted. Master Chen, you are the cousin of the association leader. Don't harm the association leader, okay? Su Anxia said bluntly. He saw that Chu Li and Chen Xiu had a close relationship. He could not help but feel jealous and inexplicably hostile towards Chu Li. Chen Xiu frowned. Guardian Su? Chu Li smiled. I will not harm my cousin. At this time, you are not advising the association leader to escape. You want to go and see? Aren't you courting death? Su Anxia angrily asked, Are you Zhao Luan's man? Chu Li laughed. Jealousy and anger could really destroy a person's rationality. This Su Anxia had a crush on Chen Xiu. It was really interesting. Guardian Su. Chen Xiu frowned and said unhappily, Don't talk nonsense. Su Anxia saw that she was protecting Chu Li and became even angrier. Association leader, everyone is fighting for a chance of survival for you. Why are you so reckless? Guardian Su. Chen Xiu's face sank and said coldly, I have made up my mind. Let's go. When Su Anxia saw her cold gaze, He swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He glared fiercely at Chu Li and turned to leave. Chen Siyu helplessly shook her head at Chu Li. This was her current situation. She had no prestige. Her words were useless. There were always people who doubted and refuted her. Chu Li smiled. You err, you stay, Chen Siyu said. You err quickly said, My lady, I will go with you. Even if we die, we will die together. You won't die. You stay here. Chen Siyu rolled her eyes. Don't cause trouble. Chu Li said, Monsieur Eyre, don't worry. You can make us some supper. After a fight in the middle of the night, we will inevitably be hungry. We can eat when we come back. Yes, Yu Eyre reluctantly agreed. She knew that she could not help even if she went. Su Wanxia sneered. What a big tone. Could it be that he had practiced martial arts and was a hidden master? What a joke. The three of them came to the hall. Zhao Luwen had already pressured the three clan leaders to the point that they could not breathe. There was blood at the corner of their mouths. Association leader, Hu Hai saw Chen Siyu and the others coming. He was shocked and glared fiercely at Su Wanxia. Su Wanxia glared at Chu Li. Ding! A crisp sound was heard. The Rain Hall leader's long saber flew out of his hand. Then he was slapped away by a palm. Bang! The Rain Hall leader fell heavily at the feet of the three of them, blood gushing out of his mouth. Chen Siyu's expression changed. Everyone's expression changed as well. The three of them were no match for him, let alone the two of them. Defeat was imminent. Chu Li shook his head. Suddenly, he appeared in front of Zhao Luwen in a flash and pressed his palm down lightly. Zhao Luwen sneered and raised his hand. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as Zhao Luwen was flung away like a stone. He crashed heavily into the hall's carved lattice door. Kacha! Hee, sorry to bother the association leader. Hu Hai laughed. The six of them came to the backyard. It was quiet and fragrant. It was much better than the main hall. It was natural to sit and talk here. It was like they were a family. Yu Eyre tactfully served their supper. Their injuries were not serious. After consuming the medicinal pills, the medicinal energy would slowly dissolve and they would slowly recover in the future. With so many people surrounding them, Zhao Luwen did not allow himself to be ruthless. If it was just one person, Zhao Luwen would have most likely killed him with a palm strike. Association leader, our strength is still too weak. Hu Hai finished the meat porridge in one gulp. He put down the white porcelain bowl and wiped his mouth. He sighed. Just one mountain split, and he defeated all of us. It's so embarrassing. Chen Siyu frowned. The foreign officials have something to do tonight. If there were 2 foreign officials, wouldn't it be better? The 2 foreign officials are about the same cultivation level as us. They can't stop Zhao Luwen. He put down the bowl and shook his head. Elder, what do you think? There's nothing we can do. Hu Hai shook his head. What can we do if our martial arts are bad? They were all old and had reached the peak of their martial arts. It was not easy to maintain their peak. It was almost impossible to go further. He looked at Su Wanxia. It's up to young Su. We'll talk about it when he's an innate master. Yi Xingji, the Wind Clan leader, scoffed. He was thin and of medium build. His face was thin and gloomy. His eyes flickered as if he was thinking all the time. Su Wanxia lowered his head in embarrassment. He was able to become a guardian because he was the best of the best. After he perfected his acquired mastery, he had not been able to break through the innate barrier. He was very anxious. Unfortunately, the more anxious he was, the more useless it was. But with Master Chun-Li around, we feel more at ease. Hu Hai laughed. Chu Li shook his head. I like to travel. I can't stand being restrained. I can't stay in one place for too long. I'll leave soon. Chen Siyu said, the key is to strengthen the Startling Cloud Association. We don't have any talented people in the Startling Cloud Association. Young Su is already the best. Isingji shook his head. He said, I heard that the Equal of Heaven Association has 2 young talents. They're about the same as Young Su. They have the potential to become innate masters. If they're one step ahead of us, then our strength will be weak. They drank the porridge and discussed the affairs of the association. Chu Li did not interrupt them. He used the omniscient mirror to look at their thoughts. Chen Siyu listened quietly. She finally felt like the association leader. After finishing the porridge, they chatted until late at night. Then they left one by one. After Chen Siyu sent them off, she returned to the backyard and let out a long sigh of relief. She had finally gotten rid of Zhao Lun. She had gotten rid of a big threat. The 4 clan leaders had also submitted to her. Her days in the future would be much easier. The most difficult hurdle was finally over. The next day, the Startling Cloud Association sent out a notice that Zhao Luan had broken into the Su residence at night and was killed. Zhao Luan's relatives could come and collect his corpse. The Startling Cloud Association clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Everyone in the Cloud State town knew about the famous mountain split. Originally, many people were waiting to see Su Jichuan make a fool of himself. They wanted to see if he could handle it. They did not expect that Zhao Luan would be killed. The Startling Cloud Association was indeed the #1 association in the Cloud State town. In the following days, the Cloud State town returned to peace. Chen Siyu became the association leader. With Chu Li as a deterrent, the 4 clan leaders were very obedient. The concept of strength was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Chen Siyu had a strong martial arts backing her up. They had no choice but to restrain themselves. 10 days later, the clan leader of the Wind Clan was stabbed to death in his sleep. He was beheaded. When he was killed, he was writing a letter to the Equal of Heaven Association. The 3 clan leaders of the Startling Cloud Association knew who did this. They were in awe. Chu Li's skills were like a ghost or a god. Killing them was a piece of cake. Isingji was a mole. They had known each other for many years, and yet they did not realize it. They suspected that this was a framing. The association leader wanted to make room for Isingji so that he could promote his trusted subordinates and completely control the Startling Cloud Association. While they were still in doubt, Chu Li silently left and returned to the house of Haiduk. Before leaving, Chu Li told Chen Siyu his address. If anything happened, she could immediately send someone to Chongming Town to find him. He would rush over quickly. He specifically told the messenger to look for him at his residence in the town. He must not go to the house of Haiduk. This was to avoid attracting attention and endless trouble. Chen Siyu understood that if someone followed her and saw her people going to the house of Haiduk, the Startling Cloud Association would become the public enemy of the martial arts world. Chapter 73. When Chu Li arrived at the public house, it was already midnight. He first returned to the East Garden. When the boat docked, he knocked on the jade plate. The sound echoed throughout the island. After a while, Li Yu rushed over in his pajamas. His hair was messy, and his eyes were still closed. When he saw that it was Chu Li, Li Yu glared at him and shook his head. I was wondering who it was. Chu Li smiled. Brother Li, long time no see. Sigh. Brother, you're finally back. Li Yu sighed. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Li Yu walked back and said, If you didn't come back soon, something bad would have happened. What happened? Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror and scanned the East Garden. The flowers and plants were all flourishing and growing well. Li Yu sighed. The moonlight orchid that was sent to the West Garden had a problem. The two of them came to the courtyard and sat at the stone table. Chu Li lit up the lantern, and the courtyard was as bright as day. Li Yu scoffed. Not long after you left, the moonlight orchid in the West Garden had a problem. I went to take a look, and it's really weak. It's on the verge of dying. Gu Litong has been trying to save it, but he still can't save it. It's been a month, and it's still alive. Gu Litong is no small matter. He dragged it out until now. I'll go take a look tomorrow. Why wait for tomorrow? Let's go now. Now. Chu Li shook his head. Half a day isn't a big deal. Li Yu's eyes widened. Brother, if it really dies, Master Xiao Taiying won't be happy. I heard that Master Xiao Taiying really likes the moonlight orchid. Chu Li smiled. Li Yu said, the third lady is powerful, but she still has to listen to Master Xiao Taiying. If she angers Master Xiao Taiying, she won't have a good time. What did Gu Litong say? Li Yu curled his lips. He said that the flower might be from Moonlight Island, and that it only has a month to live. Chu Li squinted his eyes and scoffed. What a vicious mind. Li Yu slammed the table. What does he mean? Does he mean that our moonlight orchid came from Moonlight Island? How infuriating. Is there any news from Master Xiao Taiying? Master Xiao Taiying didn't say anything, but Zhou Yuding said that you fled to escape punishment. Li Yu said through gritted teeth. Chu Li scoffed. Zhou Yuding. He thinks he can do whatever he wants just because he has a good father. Li Yu said fiercely. Don't let me find a chance, or I'll teach him a lesson. Zhou Yuding relied on the fact that his father was a consecrator, and his words were unbridled. His foul mouth had offended many people, but because of the restrictions of the manor's rules, no one could do anything to him. Chu Li waved his hand and said, It seems like we really have to settle this properly. I'm afraid that Gu Litong will kill the moonlight orchid when he finds out that you're back. Then there'll be no witnesses. Li Yu glared at him and sighed helplessly. Be careful not to fall into their trap. Chu Li smiled. It's getting late. Go back to sleep. Anyway, you have to be careful. Li Yu yawned, covering his mouth as he stood up to leave. Chu Li returned to his room in the West Wing. He was not worried. No matter what they did, it would just be a conspiracy. He had the third lady's protection. There would always be a chance to prove himself, so he was not afraid of being framed. Early in the morning, Chu Li arrived at the Jade Guardian Island. Su Ru was dressed in an apricot gown, bringing with her a light and refreshing fragrance. She smiled like a flower and looked at Chu Li from head to toe. Oh, you look good. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Su Ru waved her hand and scoffed. I heard that you stayed with a beauty for a month? Aunt Xiao told you everything. Of course. Su Ru walked gracefully through the forest and entered a small path filled with flowers. Beautiful maids passed by in twos and threes, bowing to greet her. Chu Li said, I can't disobey Aunt Xiao's orders. I've said a lot of good things about you. Su Ru pursed her lips and smiled. She said that you're a smart person. Oh, right. Have you mastered the light body technique? Chu Li smiled and nodded. You've really mastered it. Su Ru was surprised. Both Lady Xiao and Su Ru had practiced the imminent skyline before, but unfortunately, they had never mastered it. She was still reluctant to give up. She guessed that Chu Li's efforts were in vain. Chu Li smiled. I was lucky. Su Ru's watery eyes scanned his face. She rolled her eyes at him and looked away. Seems like you're quite smart. Do you know what happened in the West Garden? Chu Li nodded. Su Ru scoffed. This Gu Litong is really... Chu Li smiled. Su Ru said, Chu Li, tell me the truth. Is there a problem with that flower? She was not sure. When Chu Li first cultivated the moonlight orchid, he bought a moonlight orchid from the floral pavilion. That moonlight orchid survived and did not die. She suspected that the one he gave to the West Garden was the same one. Chuli was brave. It was not that he could not do such a thing. Chuli said, "Chief, do I look like someone who doesn't know the big picture? That moonlight orchid is definitely fine. It's stronger than the average moonlight orchid. I was worried that they wouldn't be able to keep it alive, so I purposely chose the best one." Then how did it go wrong? The moonlight orchid is fragile. It's easy for it to go wrong. But your flower bed has never had any problems. Chuli smiled. Brother Lee strictly followed my instructions. As for the West Garden, that might not be the case. Suru was deep in thought. Chuli said, "I even suspect that Gu Litong and Zhou Yuding deliberately caused trouble. The moonlight orchid was destroyed by someone." "Really?" Suru was stunned. She frowned. How could they be so daring? Jealousy makes people crazy. They do unexpected things. Chuli sighed. With Gu Litong's temperament, it's not impossible. Suru thought about it and slowly nodded. The public house knew about Gu Litong's narrow-mindedness. He was unscrupulous and had done many things that were out of line. If he was not a genius in flora, Lady Xiao would have crippled him long ago. The two of them arrived at the 3rd floor of the stargazing tower. Xiao Qi was practicing her swordsmanship. Her white robe was spotless, like a fairy who did not eat the food of the mortal world. The shining sword in her hand was as light as a feather. It was silent and light as if it was weightless. There was no murderous intent at all. Chu Li had seen her practice before. Her sword was cold and gloomy, but it was different this time. Her sword force was completely restrained, and there was no trace of anger. "Lady Xiao," Chuli fist saluted. Xiao Qi stopped her sword force and threw it to Suru. She sheathed it and hung it on the wall. "When did you come back?" Xiao Qi sat on the embroidered stool. She was elegant and dignified. She straightened her back and pointed at the opposite embroidered stool. Chuli sat on the opposite stool. "Late last night." Xiao Qi's clear eyes glanced at him. "Is everything going well over there?" Chuli told him everything that had happened. Association leader, Xiao Qi took the white jade teacup from Suru and took a sip. "I thought you would bring her over to protect her." Chuli took the teacup and thanked her. He held the teacup and said, "It's different this time. Miss Chun is stronger. She wants to support the Startling Cloud Association." The Startling Cloud Association. Xiao Qi frowned and shook her head. "She's a weak girl. It's too dangerous." Chuli put down the teacup. "I've already eliminated the danger before I left. It's not far away. You can go back and visit from time to time. If your identity is exposed, it's not a good thing for the Startling Cloud Association," Xiao Qi said. Chuli said, "I used a fake name." "You have to be careful." Xiao Qi held the teacup and pondered for a moment. "Looks like I'll have to give you a real fake identity." Chuli looked at her in surprise. Xiao Qi looked at Suru, who was standing at the side. "Suru, I'll leave this to you." "Yes, Lady Xiao." Suru nodded and looked at Chuli. Xiao Qi looked at Chuli. "Don't underestimate the people of the martial arts world. There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are many capable people. The Startling Cloud Association won't trust you. They'll investigate you, not to mention the Equal of Heaven Association." Chuli nodded slowly and told her about his arrangements. Xiao Qi shook her head. "It's too easy to see through. Let Suru make the arrangements." Suru said, "I'll find someone who looks like you to live in your residence." "It won't be that easy, right?" Chuli touched his face. Suru rolled her eyes at him. "Don't worry. I'll find someone who looks like me. As long as it's 50 to 60% real, it'll be fine." Chuli smiled. "Thank you, Chief." Suru scoffed. She's my friend. Of course, we can't be careless. If we cause trouble for her, we'll be in deep trouble. We're not doing this for you. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Xiao Qi glared at Su Ru. Su Ru stuck out her tongue and kept quiet. Have you mastered the imminent skyline? Yes, Chu Li said. Xiao Qi's eyes flashed. You've really mastered it. Chu Li suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared at the window. He flashed again and sat on the garden stool. The teacup in his hand did not spill a single drop. It was as if he had never moved it, and it was just an illusion. Imminent skyline. Xiao Qi sighed softly. Su Ru scoffed. That's enough. What's there to show off? The imminent skyline consumes a lot of inner energy. You'll have to exchange for a few bottles of energy pill. Chu Li responded with a smile. Xiao Qi said, the imminent skyline is not just a martial art. It's also a body movement technique. It's even a mysterious heart technique. Once you've mastered it, your martial art skills will greatly increase. Chu Li nodded. With the imminent skyline, his body movement technique was ghostly and impossible to defend against. His martial art skills had indeed greatly improved. Lady Xiao, we need to quickly deal with the matter in the West Garden. Su Ru reminded. Let Chu Li go and have a look. He suspects that someone is deliberately causing trouble. Okay, you go with him, Xiao Qi said. Su Ru simply replied, yes. The two of them bid farewell and left. Chu Li originally wanted to go back to the courtyard to see the flowers and plants. He wanted to see how the Gloriesville tree was growing and how big the raven grass was. However, Su Ru teased him and wanted to go back to see the beautiful scribe. Chapter 74. The two of them steered the boat to a small island. This island was twice the size of the East Garden, and it was surrounded by dense willow trees. It was lush and full of life. From afar, the greenery made people feel relaxed, and it was very similar to the East Garden. Chu Li nodded to himself. This Gu Litong was not a good person, but he did have some skills. He was able to release the vitality of flowers and plants, which could affect a person's state of mind. When the two arrived at the small island, there were already two people waiting on the shore. Gu Litong and Zhou Yuding stood side by side in front of the two with unfriendly expressions. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Brother Gu, Brother Zhou, how have you been? Zhou Yuding glared at him coldly and ignored him. He cupped his fists and greeted Su Ru. Gu Litong returned the gesture with a smile. Brother Chu, you're even more elegant than before. I'm really envious of you. Chu Li smiled. Brother Gu, you flatter me. Is the moonlight orchid dead? With Brother Gu's help, it won't be that easy to die. Zhou Yuding scoffed. If it were you, you would have died long ago. Chu Li smiled. Brother Zhou, do you know anything about the moonlight orchid? Of course. Zhou Yuding patted his chest. While Brother Gu is researching the moonlight orchid, I've been following him. Chu Li said, you're just an idiot. It's useless no matter how much you watch. Just shut up. You. Zhou Yuding's eyes widened. Su Ru smiled and waved her hand. All right, stop bickering. Hurry up and look at the flowers. Chief Su, please follow me. Gu Litong patted Zhou Yuding's shoulder and smiled at Su Ru. The four of them walked through the flower beds. The structure here was completely different from the East Garden. All the flowers were mixed together, giving off a dazzling feeling. It was not as refreshing as the East Garden, but it was more colorful. The East Garden was built according to Xiao Qi's character. She was a neat freak, always neat and orderly, calm and rational when faced with problems. The West Garden was like this, reflecting Master Xiao Taiying's character. He was more emotional than rational, so he must have been more emotional than rational. Chu Li secretly analyzed. The four of them saw the moonlight orchid not far from a small pavilion. Its leaves were drooping, and it was on the verge of death. The originally snow-like leaves had already withered and turned yellow. Suru frowned. Seeing such a beautiful moonlight orchid become like this, she really couldn't bear it. From 100 meters away, Chu Li had already connected his senses with the moonlight orchid. Their breaths were connected. The moonlight orchid was him, and he was the moonlight orchid. He was experiencing the feeling of the moonlight orchid. Suru saw him staring blankly at the moonlight orchid and quickly said, "Chu Li?" Chu Li turned to look at Gu Litong and Zhou Yuding. The two of them stared at him coldly. Chu Li sighed. "You are not fit to control the West Garden." "What do you mean, surname Chu? What do you mean by that?" Zhou Yuding shouted. Chu Li said, "The moonlight orchid was destroyed by someone." "Nonsense! No one from our West Garden came here." Zhou Yuding shouted as he sneered. "You're too much of a liar, aren't you? How can you tell that it was sabotaged at a glance?" Chu Li said, "If I don't have such abilities, why should I stay in the East Garden? Brother Gu, don't you agree? Tell me, how did you destroy it?" Gu Litong asked coldly. Chu Li said, "It's you, Brother Gu, right?" "Ridiculous!" Gu Litong sneered. "Don't you find such childish slander ridiculous? You won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." Chu Li sighed. "Bring me a shovel." Zhou Yuding scoffed. "What do you want?" "We'll know once we dig it." Chu Li said impatiently. "You think it's flawless?" Zhou Yuding looked at Gu Litong. Su Ru was already angry. She said coldly, "Zhou Yuding, what are you waiting for?" Zhou Yuding helplessly replied, "Yes," and brought over a small and exquisite shovel. Chu Li took the shovel and shoveled it a few times. He then slowly dug up a few pieces of black soil and passed it to Su Ru. "Chief, this is it. Isn't this silt?" Su Ru said. She knew that Chu Li used the cultivation method of digging up silt from the bottom of the lake and mixing it with the rotten soil to become the soil for the moonlight orchid. The black soil looked like silt. Chu Li shook his head. "This isn't just any silt. It's been added with something." "What is it?" "Horse piss." Chu Li scoffed. "The moonlight orchid is most afraid of horse piss. The person who buried this should know the moonlight orchid's habits very well." "Don't you think so, Brother Gu?" Gu Litong scoffed and did not say a word. Chu Li said, "You buried it, right?" Gu Litong shook his head. "It wasn't me." "Then could it be Brother Zhou?" Chu Li laughed. "Brother Zhou is not that smart." Zhou Yuding said impatiently, "What nonsense are you talking about? I said it was you who buried it. Besides, if you say it's horse piss, then it's horse piss." "Why?" Chu Li smiled. "It's not difficult. We'll find the high officials of the herb garden." "All right, let's find the high officials." Zhou Yuding said loudly. Gu Litong scoffed. "There's no need." "Brother Gu," Zhou Yuding quickly said, "we can't listen to his nonsense." Chu Li smiled and shook his head. He glanced at Gu Litong. Gu Litong said, "I buried it." "Ah." Zhou Yuding widened his eyes in disbelief. Chu Li sighed. "Why did you do that? Killing a moonlight orchid to see what you're capable of. It's worth it." Gu Litong scoffed. Su Ru said coldly, "Gu Litong, how dare you?" Gu Litong smiled. "Chief Su, I only killed a moonlight orchid. I'll accept the punishment of 1,000 taels of silver." Su Ru's face was cold as she stared at him. Gu Litong smiled at her. He did not mind. The West Garden could not leave him. With Master Xiao Taiying's protection, Chief Su could not do anything to him. He was not afraid, so he admitted it. Chu Li said, "Brother Gu, you're too despicable." "Same here." Gu Litong scoffed and smiled proudly. Chu Li sighed and looked around. "I wonder if you were the one who caused the plants in the West Garden to get sick and then cured them." Others were helpless, but you had a way to cure them. That's why you're known as a genius. Chu Li sighed. You. Gu Litong's expression changed. Chu Li sighed. What a shame. What a shame. He turned to Su Ru and said, Chief, let's go. The Moonlight Orchid is fine. Let's go. Su Ru glared at Gu Litong and Zhou Yuding and turned to leave. Zhou Yuding shrunk his neck. Gu Litong's expression was ugly, but he did not look away. He was unyielding and fearless. Zhou Yuding watched as the two left. He whispered, Brother Gu, why did you do that? Offending Chief Su will not end well. What's there to be afraid of? Gu Litong scoffed. We have Master Xiao Taiying. She can't do anything. Chief Su has a high reputation in the guards. Zhou Yuding shook his head. If she says anything, we'll be in trouble. Let's stay in the West Garden. Who would dare to come here? Gu Litong pouted. Moreover, we have to give face to Master Xiao Taiying. They won't dare to do anything. Don't worry. Sigh. Zhou Yuding's face was bitter. He had a bad feeling. After boarding the small boat, Chu Li activated his inner energy, and the boat shot out like an arrow. The West Garden quickly disappeared from their sight. Su Ru's face darkened. She stomped her feet. Gu, Li, Tong. Chu Li's green robe fluttered in the wind. He looked calm. Chief, don't bother with him. He's a despicable person. He's not worth it. If I don't teach him a lesson, my life will be in vain. Su Ru scoffed. Chu Li said, It's beneath your dignity to bother with him. Let me do it. You? Su Ru turned to look at him. Chu Li said, It's not difficult to deal with him. I just didn't kill him because of Master Xiao Taiying. This time, he was so rude to you. I can't tolerate it anymore. What are you going to do? Su Ru frowned. The guards are not allowed to kill each other. If you break the rules, I can't help you. Chu Li smiled. I'm not that stupid. What can you do to him? Su Ru was annoyed. She had thought of many ways, but none of them worked. If she complained to Master Xiao Taiying, Master Xiao Taiying would definitely side with Gu Litong. Master Xiao Taiying would be vigilant and think that she was going to pull out the nail in the West Garden. He would not believe her. If she asked others to trouble Gu Litong, he would stay in the West Garden. Besides, with Master Xiao Taiying's support, the other guards would be restrained. No matter how she thought about it, there was no good way. Just thinking about it made her feel wronged. Chu Li smiled. Leave it to me. I'll let the chief see it in a few days. Don't mess around. Su Ru warned. Don't break the rules. Of course. Chu Li smiled and nodded. A bright moon hung in the sky. The world was clear and quiet. Zhou Yuding and Gu Litong lazily went to the new moon brothel. They stood below the new moon brothel and looked up. The new moon brothel pierced through the clouds. Music and laughter could be heard. It was like a heavenly palace. Being here, one could forget about the troubles of the secular world. Zhou Yuding and Gu Litong would come here every few days. They were infatuated with the beauties here. Some of them were dignified, some were enchanting, some were pure, and some were charming. They had different temperaments, but all of them were beautiful. They were beauties gifted to men by God. Although they had to spend a lot of money each time, they never got tired of it. They had not been here for 5 to 6 days. Their bodies were itchy, empty, and bored. They could not move their bodies, but their feet had automatically brought them here. Both of them had their own girlfriends. Gu Litong and Zhou Yuding went their separate ways once they entered the new moon brothel. Zhou Yuding swaggered up to the 3rd floor. He waved his hand to dismiss the girl who was leading the way. He came to a house and knocked on the door. There was no response. It was dark inside, and there was no light. Zhou Yuding's heart sank. Did Yu Jiao sleep with someone else? He had booked her, and would not accept other guests. Someone! Someone! He stood at the door and shouted. A pretty girl fluttered over. Master Zhou, what's going on? Zhou Yuding pointed at the room. Where's Yu Jiao? Sister Yu Jiao is married. The pretty girl was surprised. Master Zhou, you don't know? Married? Zhou Yuding's expression changed. When did she get married? Getting married meant that she had been redeemed and left the New Moon brothel. He had been saving money to redeem Yu Jiao, but the price was too high. It required 100,000 taels. It was a number that made him desperate. Even if he and Gu Litong combined their money, it was still far from enough. Chapter 75. Now that he heard that Yu Jiao was ransomed by someone else, it was as if lightning struck his head. After a while, he came to his senses. It was as if a piece of his heart had been cut off. He quickly pulled the pretty girl's sleeve. Who took Yu Jiao away? Young Master Zhou. The pretty girl struggled. Zhou Yuding was anxious. He grabbed her even tighter and shouted, Tell me who did it. Young Master Zhou, you're hurting me, the pretty girl said angrily. She didn't speak. Zhou Yuding was extremely angry. He shook her petite body. Tell me, tell me. The pretty girl was helpless. She gently struggled and got rid of Zhou Yuding's hand. She tidied up her pink gown and said angrily, Young Master Zhou, can you calm down? Zhou Yuding was startled. He looked at her in surprise, but he didn't have time to think about why she was so good at martial arts. He quickly said, Tell me who did it? I don't know. The pretty girl shook her head. He didn't say who he was. He took out 100,000 taels to ransom Sister Yu Jiao. Sister Yu Jiao also agreed. The OP didn't stop her. Sister Yu Jiao left with that young master in the afternoon. What does he look like? Zhou Yuding asked. He has an extraordinary bearing. The pretty girl smiled. He looks like a good person. That's why Sister Yu Jiao agreed, without hesitation. Yu Jiao, Yu Jiao. Zhou Yuding muttered to himself. His heart fell into an ice cave. His chest was stuffed with cotton. He couldn't breathe. The pretty girl said, Young Master Zhou, besides Sister Yu Jiao, there are other sisters. I'm sure they'll satisfy you. Why do you keep thinking about Sister Yu Jiao? Come, I'll introduce you to another sister. I only like Yu Jiao, Zhou Yuding whispered in a daze. The pretty girl smiled. I didn't expect young Master Zhou to be so infatuated. Sister Yu Jiao will be very happy if she knows. Did Yu Jiao leave an address? Zhou Yuding reached out to grab her. The pretty girl lightly dodged. I think she did, but the OP won't give it to you. Zhou Yuding showed a flattering smile. Good sister, help me. The pretty girl pursed her lips and chuckled. Thank as. What benefits do I get from helping you? Was overjoyed. Zhou Yuding took the white paper and carefully opened it, and happily handed it to her. He glanced at the address inside. Buy me some candy. And nodded vigorously. Help me. Good. I won't forget you. You all right. As. Seeing that you're infatuated. Don't go and make trouble. I'll help you ask. The pretty girl took the banknotes. Although you're from the house of high dukes, they took out smiled at Zhou Yuding and walked away in one go. Wait here. They're not Zhou to be trifled with. When he thought of you, might not be able to afford to without a word. He felt as if a knife was twisting in his heart. But he was also unwilling. When he thought of Yu Jiao's lovely and moving face, as long as she's doing well, he felt pity for her again. He didn't know if she would suffer. The pretty girl, Yu Jiao, was too innocent as he strode away, easy to be deceived, and shook her head. What if the person who bought really her a wonderful thing was a bad guy who make people like this and insulted her? Yuding strode what would she, out of the New Moon house, do? He ignored Gu Litong and smiled and went directly to the address written on the white paper. The residents of Tianjing Alley were either rich or noble, but they couldn't stop him from making up his mind. He strode through the bustling street to Sweetwell Alley and stopped in front of a house. Without hesitation, he used his qinggong to float into the front yard. The courtyard was brightly lit. As soon as he landed, he saw the door to the hall open, and a graceful figure entered his sight. His eyes widened, and he breathed heavily as he rushed into the hall. In the hall, Chu Li sat on an armchair, smiling as he watched Yu Jiao dance. Yu Jiao was a well-proportioned, slender, and beautiful woman. Her facial features were delicate, but she was so fragile that it made people want to protect her. She danced gracefully, her posture graceful. She had been through strict training. Chu Li suddenly clapped his hands and smiled. "All right, Miss Yu Jiao, Brother Zhou is here." Yu Jiao turned her head and immediately called out in surprise, "Master Zhou?" Zhou Yuding quickly went forward. "Yu Jiao, why are you here?" Yu Jiao threw herself into his arms and looked up. "Didn't you redeem me, Master?" "Me?" Zhou Yuding was stunned and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li was dressed in a green tunic, quietly sitting on the armchair, smiling at them. "Chu Li, what are you doing?" Zhou Yuding said impatiently. He was holding back his anger, ready to explode at any time. This guy actually asked Yu Jiao to dance for him. How hateful! Chu Li smiled. "Miss Yu Jiao, please allow us to speak in private." "Yes," Yu Jiao replied softly and left. Zhou Yuding opened his mouth, but did not stop her. He turned his head and stared at Chu Li. Chu Li pointed at the armchair beside him and smiled. "Brother Zhou, sit down and talk." "Why are you so angry? I thought you would be grateful to me." "Grateful?" Zhou Yuding sneered. "Humph," Chu Li said. "Aren't you going to thank me for redeeming you for Miss Yu Jiao?" "Yu Jiao is mine," Zhou Yuding said loudly. "Of course." Chu Li smiled. "Consider this 100,000 taels of silver as a loan from me to you. You can slowly repay me." Zhou Yuding's expression softened. He frowned. "Really?" Chu Li smiled. "When have I ever gone back on my word?" Zhou Yuding stared at him cautiously and scoffed. "What do you want from me?" "It's nothing." Chu Li shook his head. "This is a small matter for you, Brother Zhou. You can do it easily. Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Zhou Yuding scoffed. He understood that Chu Li was both threatening and tempting him. If he did not agree, Chu Li would snatch Yu Jiao away. "I want you to tell the truth in front of Master Xiao Taiying." Chu Li took a sip of tea. "Tell him what Brother Gu did." "No way." Zhou Yuding scoffed. Chu Li sighed. "It seems like Brother Zhou values Brother Gu more. Women are like clothes, and brothers are like limbs. Treacherous." Zhou Yuding shook his head. "I will not be such a despicable person." Chu Li laughed. "Brother Zhou, you're so naive." "Who's naive?" Zhou Yuding said impatiently. "I won't agree no matter what. Brother Zhou, I admire how you value loyalty so much." Chu Li said with a straight face. Zhou Yuding scoffed. Chu Li said, "However, loyalty depends on the person. Aren't you naive to value loyalty to a wolf?" Zhou Yuding opened his mouth, but Chu Li interrupted him. "Let me put it this way. If Brother Gu was standing here today, would he agree?" Zhou Yuding was silent. Chapter 76. Chu Li put down his teacup and sighed. "You're loyal to Gu Litong, but Gu Litong treats you like a fool. Brother Zhou, do you not understand? No matter what, I can't go back on my word." Zhou Yuding scoffed. "How is this going back on your word? Think about it. If Gu Litong continues like this, how can the West Garden be any better? Sooner or later, something bad will happen. How dare he kill the Moonlight Orchid? What else is there that he doesn't dare to do? There is no such thing as an impenetrable wall. If Master Xiao Taiying gets angry, what will you do?" Zhou Yuding's expression changed. "Once Master Xiao Taiying gets angry, he will definitely take it out on him." Chu Li said, "Did Gu Litong ever think about you when he did all of this?" He thinks that the world revolves around him. You should be nice to him, but he doesn't have to be nice to you. He doesn't have to think about you. I'm not talking nonsense, am I? Zhou Yuding was silent. Chu Li was right. Gu Litong really didn't care about him. Everything was based on him. Zhou Yuding was just a foil. Chu Li continued. If this was any other time, you could hide it for him. You might be able to hide it for a while, but the situation is different now. I'm forcing you to make a choice. You can either choose a girl who loves you and yourself deeply, or you can choose to die with Gu Litong. Any normal person would know what to choose. But Zhou Yuding frowned. Chu Li waved his hand. Moreover, is what you're doing righteously? Should we stop Gu Litong's behavior? As a member of the West Garden and a subordinate of Master Xiao Taiying, should you be loyal to Master Xiao Taiying or Gu Litong? Is Gu Litong more important than Master Xiao Taiying? Chu Li took another sip of tea. If you continue to hide it, you'll be disloyal to Master Xiao Taiying. He waved his hand again and interrupted Zhou Yuding. Disloyal to Master Xiao Taiying? Disloyal to the girl who loves you, but loyal to a despicable person? Don't you think you're ridiculous? Zhou Yuding remained silent. Chu Li said, Brother Zhou, if you speak up and be a man, not only Miss Yu Jiao, but this house will also belong to you. Take it as a token of my appreciation. Humph, your sincerity is quite expensive. Zhou Yuding snorted. Chu Li smiled. Let me make this clear first. The house is a gift to Brother Zhou, but you still have to pay back the money used to redeem yourself. Let's split it over 10 years. 10,000 taels a year shouldn't be too much, right? 20 years. Zhou Yuding said. He was only at level 8 and not a bodyguard. He could only get money from his family, but 10,000 taels a year was still too much. All right, 20 years. Chu Li scoffed. He got up and put down the teacup. He took out a receipt from his pocket and handed it to him. Sign it. Zhou Yuding took it and gave it a few glances. Biting his left index finger, he pressed a red handprint on it and snorted, You still don't trust me? If Brother Zhou does something that you shouldn't do, I'll take this IOU to High Official Zhou. High Official Zhou won't go back on his word. Chu Li smiled. All right then, I won't bother you anymore. Every minute of the night is worth 1,000 gold. He waved at Zhou Yuding and floated away. Zhou Yuding stood there in a daze. Master, Yu Jiao came over like a weak willow in the wind. Zhou Yuding's tangled thoughts disappeared. He reached out and pulled Yu Jiao into his arms. The joy of regaining something he had lost filled his heart. He carried her and rushed into the bedroom. It was already midnight when Chu Li returned to the courtyard on the Jade Guardian Island. He pushed the door open, and there was a shout from the courtyard. Who is it? It's me. Chu Li stepped into the courtyard. As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, the air suddenly changed. It was much fresher in an instant. It was as if all his pores had opened up. Xue Ling was practicing the crescent cryptic 8 forms. When she saw him, she was shocked. Master, Chu Li smiled. Are you not happy that I'm back? Xue Lingyu's face tensed up. She scoffed. What's there to be happy about? I still have to work hard to serve you. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. He walked to the front of the Gloriesville tree and looked at it carefully. He nodded in satisfaction. The raven grass had grown very tall. It was much taller than the average raven grass. It was thick and strong. This type of raven grass would have a better medicinal effect. Master, the nightmare flower has bloomed twice. Chief picked the flowers. Chu Li nodded. He had already sent a letter to Suru to pick the nightmare flower in time. As for the Andromeda and the others, there was no need to rush. The longer they grew, the better. Chief said that you went to accompany a beauty. What happened? Xue Ling served him a white jade teacup. Chu Li took it and took a sip. It's a long story. I'll tell you later. You should continue with your cultivation. Do you want supper? No need. I'll make some, Xue Ling said, and ran into the kitchen. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. The Gloriesville tree had grown a lot. With the help of the 4 trees, it grew very fast. It was now its rapid growth period. After a year, its growth rate would probably slow down. It would be as slow as a tortoise. It would grow bit by bit with time. Its lifespan would be more than 1,000 years. Chu Li sat back in the pagoda and let out a sigh. Home was still the most comfortable. He had left the public house for a month. Returning to this small courtyard felt familiar and comfortable. It felt like his own home. He was at ease. When Xue Ling brought supper, Chu Li asked her to practice the crescent cryptic 8 forms to see how she progressed. Xue Ling practiced it once, and Chu Li gave her a few pointers. Xue Ling pondered over the improvements and understood what Chu Li said. She felt that she had learned a lot. She really needed his pointers. The next day, Chu Li woke up lazily and sat in the pagoda for the whole day. He used the energy of the Gloriesville tree to train his body and continued to practice the sentient menace. The raven grass had matured. He could start the medicinal bath now. In the evening, the light of the setting sun filled the small courtyard. Su Ru's apricot yellow gown fluttered as she pushed open the door. Without waiting for Chu Li to come out, she entered the pagoda and sat in front of Chu Li. Her eyes widened. Chu Li, what did you do? Chu Li smiled. Chief, what's the matter? Gu Litong's hand was broken, and he was expelled from the public house. Su Ru was surprised. Master Xiao Taiying is angry. No one knows why. I think it's your doing. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. What a pity. What's there to pity? You're such a hypocrite. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. This guy should have been expelled from the public house a long time ago. Chu Li said, he's quite talented. Gu Litong was not a good person, but he was very talented in the art of plants. If Chu Li did not have the life and death scripture, he would not be able to compete with him. Hurry up and tell me, how did you do it? Su Ru urged. Chu Li did not hide anything. He told her what happened and smiled. Fight fire with fire. It's hard to deal with someone like him in a fair and square way. You're really evil. Su Ru looked at him strangely. You're full of evil ideas. Chu Li smiled, but did not say anything. Su Ru said, 100,000 taels? Chu Li took out the IOU. I didn't actually plan to let him return it, but if I don't have something on him, Zhou Yuding won't be willing to be controlled. Su Ru looked at it and scoffed. I don't have 100,000 taels to give you. Chu Li smiled. What are you thinking, Chief? How could I let you pay? Chapter 77. Chu Li took a sip of tea and smiled. How will Lady Xiao deal with Gu Litong? Lady Xiao doesn't care about him. Su Ru pouted her red lips and scoffed. He was expelled from the public house. Lady Xiao thinks that Master Xiao Taiying did nothing wrong. If it wasn't for Master Xiao Taiying, Lady Xiao would have punished him a long time ago. He's a talent after all, Chu Li said. Are we just going to let him go? What else do you want? Su Ru tilted her head and looked at him. Chu Li, do you want to kill him? Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Isn't that too cruel? Su Ru did not believe him. She stared at him with dissatisfaction. It's bad enough. He's useless for the rest of his life. He'll never appear in front of us again. It's no different from being dead. Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Chief, what do you think Gu Litong will do after being expelled from the public house? Su Ru laughed. What can he do? Chu Li said, don't forget, As a scribe of the West Garden, he knows a lot about the public house. Will Rin Public House let go of such a talent? If he goes to Rin Public House, will Rin Public House accept him? Su Ru's smile froze. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Gu Litong knows the people in the public house and everyone's character very well. If Rin Public House gets him, they'll know everyone's weakness and use it to their advantage. Just like how I dealt with Zhou Yuding, who can stop them? Su Ru frowned and pondered. Xue Ling was standing behind him, ready to refill her tea. Hearing this, she frowned. Was he really going to kill him? Master Chu said all this to get rid of the root of the problem. Su Ru raised her head and sighed. Looks like I'll have to get him back. Yes, he can redeem himself. Chu Li nodded. Don't kill him. He sighed. Facing someone like Lady Xiao Taiying, everything was a test. If he only cared about his personal grudges, his vision and mind would be inferior. It would be difficult for him to be important. Gu Litong's current situation had completely ruined his future. He could only struggle at the bottom for the rest of his life. On Chu Li's mood had also their own value. There was no need to add insult to injury. Chu Li said, "All right, I'll start the medicinal bath her brows and prepare a specialized wooden Master tub Zhao's anger won't be appeased and so narrower than the bathtub. I'll have to ask so that I can stand Lady Xiao to calm him down. Try not to waste the medicinal bath." said. No matter Understood. What, Gu Litong is still very talented. When will young master begin? It's best to do this immediately. All right. Lest the delay she turned around with trouble and left the small courtyard to find someone to make the wooden already tub. Started to act. Chu Li did not know whether the prescription was effective or not. The sentient menace had yellow gown fluttered for a long time as she used her lightness skill. It made him anxious. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared from the small courtyard. Chu Li was preparing to take a bath said, when Su Master fluttered over. Litong, she was still wearing her apricot yellow Isn't gown. He afraid of the her assassination in the residence? Was gloomy. What she pushed the door open and went straight into the pagoda. He has nowhere else to go now. Li was squatting on the ground, looking at the glories will tree. It was growing rapidly. In just a day, it had grown about an inch. It was beyond imagination. The scripture of life and death was indeed magical. It could stimulate growth. Seeing Su Ru enter the pagoda without saying a word, Xue Ling knew how to read the situation. She carefully handed over a cup of tea and quietly left. Chu Li smiled and sat opposite Su Ru. He took the white jade teacup from Xue Ling and took a sip. Chief, who made you unhappy again? Do you want me to do something? I don't need you. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. There's trouble. Could it be Gu Litong? Yes, Gu Litong is missing. I've sent people to look for him, but they couldn't find him after a day. I think someone took him away. The Ren Public House. Chu Li frowned. He did not think that his prediction was right. The Ren Public House had acted so quickly. I'm not sure yet. Su Ru shook her head and sighed. I was too late. Now we're in trouble. Is there a tracking master in the public house? Chu Li frowned. We have to find him as soon as possible. Whether it's the Rin Public House or other forces, they're definitely up to no good. I've already sent a tracking master. Su Ru pursed her red lips and scoffed. If it's really the Rin Public House, it'll be very troublesome. Chu Li said, if it's really the Rin Public House, then we have to investigate carefully. How did they get the news so quickly? How did they spread the news? I think there's a spy. A spy? Su Ru sighed and nodded. That's for sure. Chu Li smiled. We have a spy in the Rin Public House, right? Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. Why do you ask? Chu Li smiled to show that he understood. Obviously, there was a spy. The public houses would infiltrate each other, and no one could hide from the others. Chu Li would be in danger. Not only did he have to be careful of the Tempest Temple, but he also had to be careful of the Ren Public House. He had killed a master from the Ren Public House before. Su Ru stared at him without blinking. Her eyes were as clear as water. Chu Li was scared by her stare. He quickly waved his hand. I don't have any good ideas now. Su Ru smiled sweetly. Chu Li, you have a lot of ideas. I'm sure you can think of something. Chu Li got up and paced a few steps. He did not say anything. Su Ru looked at him, and her smile became brighter. She smiled and said, Tell me quickly. Chu Li stopped walking. There's a risk. Less. Gather? Manage Shidan? Break the cane? Lie? Chu Li coughed twice and said, You should know about the spy in our public house, right? Su Ru nodded. Yes, I can't find all of them, but I can find a few. Then think of a way to let the spy find out a secret. Secret? About Gu Li Tong's secret. Tell him that it's a trick. Su Ru's eyes lit up, and she smiled. You're full of ideas. Chu Li said, This plan might not work, but it's better than nothing. Let's get our insider to spread the word in front of Gu Litong that the Run public house actually hates traitors the most. Once they're no longer useful, they'll end up in a miserable state. That way, Gu Litong will not dare to say too much. Yes, we'll do both. Su Ru nodded. Chu Li said, Actually, there's another way. Tell me quickly. Su Ru pushed his left arm. Chu Li smiled. Have you thought about letting Gu Litong redeem himself by doing good deeds? Didn't you say it before? Su Ru scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. It's not the same thing. Then tell me quickly. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. If you keep me guessing, I'll teach you a lesson. Chu Li quickly waved his hand and surrendered. He smiled. Actually, we can let Gu Litong be our spy. Spy? Su Ru was stunned. Chu Li nodded. What's fake is real, and what's real is fake. I heard that the princess of the Ren public house is also a powerful person. She may not believe in our previous plan. Instead, she'll believe in Gu Litong. Lu Yurong is really powerful. Su Ru pursed her cherry lips and shook her head. There are very few people who can make Lady Xiao suffer losses. Chu Li said, Let Gu Litong be our spy. If Lu Yurong believes him, it'll be the best. Even if Lu Yurong is skeptical, we won't lose anything. Su Ru looked at him from head to toe. Chu Li smiled. Do you think I'm too cruel? You're treating Gu Litong as a chess piece. Su Ru shook her head. You don't care about human lives. Not caring about emotions, only about benefits, and manipulating people like chess pieces was a common problem of those in power. Lady Xiao was actually the same. However, Lady Xiao was born a noble princess. She had received this kind of education since young. Chu Li said, If it was someone else, I would have snatched the person back. As for him, he scoffed. I'm already being merciful by not killing him. Su Ru tilted her head and looked at him. You're so smart. Why didn't you deal with him earlier? She felt that with Chu Li's intelligence, dealing with Gu Litong would be a piece of cake. Why did he have to wait until now? I'm kind by nature. I want to be kind to others. Chu Li smiled. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. Chu Li said, All right, to be honest, I didn't take him seriously. He's just being smart. He actually had a plan in mind. He could see through Gu Litong's plot and beat him at his own game. It would be a piece of cake for him to deal with Gu Litong at any time. He did not want to touch this matter, as he did not want to anger Master Xiao Taiying. Master Xiao Taiying was in charge of the public house. Offending him would not end well. These thoughts flashed through Chu Li's mind. He continued, Moreover, I'm not that delicate. I'm not a tiger that I can't touch. If it's not too much, I won't bother with him. He has offended the chief, so I can't tolerate him anymore. Su Ru pursed her lips and smiled. She rolled her eyes at him. You. When Chu Li said that, she was happy even though she knew that he was flattering her. At the end of the day, Chu Li's words were the same as his actions. He was not flattering her. He did not care about Gu Litong's provocation before. This time, he was helping her to vent her anger. All right, I'll report to Lady Xiao Taiying. Suru stood up. If Lady Xiao Taiying really accepts it, you'll have to take credit for it. Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. What kind of credit is this? Hypocrite. Suru rolled her eyes at him and left. Chapter 78. In the east wing of the small courtyard, white steam was rising and the strong smell of medicine was rolling. Chu Li and Shui usually bathed here. A wooden barrel as tall as a person was erected in the house. Below the barrel was a stone stove. Shui was wearing a white shirt and squatting in front of the stove. She added firewood from time to time. Her back curved into a beautiful curve. The firewood was burning and crackling from time to time. The barrel emitted white steam, and the smell of medicine quickly filled the house. This wooden barrel was exquisitely made. There was a layer of iron plate at the bottom of the barrel. There was a foot of water between the iron plate and the bottom of the barrel. The hot water was used to heat the barrel and maintain the temperature of the medicine in the barrel. It was neither too hot nor too cold. Squeak! Chu Li pushed the door open and entered. He wrinkled his nose and nodded in satisfaction. Looks like it's going well. Let's begin. Shui stood up and walked out. Chu Li smiled. Where are you going? I'll go out first. Shui blushed. You have to take off your clothes. Chu Li looked at her shy expression and thought it was interesting. She could not hold up her cold and arrogant attitude. She was still too thin-skinned. Shui quickly turned her head and hurried out. She did not dare to look at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head. He came from the modern world and was not that sensitive to the naked body. The culture of this world was more conservative. It was not normal to show one's shoulder. Chu Li took off his clothes and jumped into the barrel. He grimaced. It was hot and numb. The scorching hot medicine turned into needles and kept pricking his skin. The pain was getting worse. It was much more powerful than a stick. It was pervasive and everywhere. He activated the heart technique of the sentient menace and activated the omniscient mirror. He could clearly see the changes in his skin and muscles. Under the combination of the medicine and the heart technique, they became more and more compact and elastic. Time passed slowly. The medicine in the barrel was burning hot. The match under the stove burned out, but the medicine still maintained its temperature. It cooled down very slowly. Chu Li's forehead was covered with a layer of sweat. Impurities seeped out from his pores. After some time, Chu Li opened his eyes. Shui, come in. Shui answered from outside the room. Is it done? Yes, come in. Shui pushed the door open and walked in with her head lowered. She picked up a wooden bucket beside her and walked to the pot. The pot was already boiling hot water. She scooped the hot water into the wooden bucket and mixed it with a bucket of cold water. After adjusting the water temperature, she quickly went out again. Her face was red the whole time. Chu Li leaped into the bucket of clean water and washed his body. After wiping himself clean, he put on his green robe and left the room, arriving at the gazebo. Shui brewed some tea and served it. Chu Li toyed with the white jade teacup and took a sip, deep in thought. The effect of the medicinal bath was pretty good, but he realized that it was far from what he had expected. The effect on the sentient menace was limited. The sentient menace had a total of 9 levels, which were the skin, flesh, tendons, veins, bones, marrow, essence, energy, and spirit. The last 3 levels were extremely mysterious, and almost no one had managed to master them. It was said that the person who mastered it would become a Buddha, and his body would be immortal and indestructible. he had a profound cultivation of Dharma, so he was able to learn the basics very quickly. After mastering the first level, his skin was abnormally tough and could block ordinary swords and sabers. However, he was stuck at the second level. No matter how hard he tried, his muscles could not reach the desired level. Hitting with a stick was effective, but after a certain level, it was ineffective. The medicinal bath had some effect, but it was still not enough to master the second level. He shook his head and sighed. It seemed that he had to use the method of the Tempest Temple through the torso tuning technique. Unfortunately, there was no top-notch torso tuning technique in the martial arts hall. Even if it was effective, the effect might not be as good. Moreover, the torso tuning technique had a lot of side effects. Shui stood beside him and asked softly, "Is the medicinal bath effective?" Chu Li nodded. "Next time, don't use the medicinal bath. Just boil it into an ointment and try applying it on your body." He estimated that if it was made into an ointment, the medicinal energy would be concentrated and the effect would be better. It was worth a try. Shui agreed. As the two of them were chatting, Suru pushed the door open and came in. Her apricot gown fluttered in the wind, bringing with it a faint fragrance. She sat opposite him. "Are you looking for a torso tuning technique?" She took out a yellowed booklet from her sleeves and passed it to Chu Li. "I got this from Lady Zhao's secret storage. Take a look." Chu Li smiled as he took the booklet. On the cover, the words "Art of White Tiger" were written in gold and silver strokes. It was majestic. Art of White Tiger. Chu Li slowly flipped it open. His expression changed slightly. There were 6 pictures in total. Each picture was of a white tiger. Each white tiger had a different posture. Some were entrenched on the ground. Some were flying in the air. Some were walking lazily. Some were about to pounce. Some were rolling, and some were running. Every picture was vivid and lifelike. It was as if a white tiger was in front of him. If he was not calm, he would have thrown the picture away. Shui stood behind him. She curiously glanced at the pictures. Her face turned pale, and she was so scared that her body went numb. This was an instinctive fear that was rooted in her blood. After he finished looking at the 6 pictures, he looked up at Suru. Suru clapped her hands and smiled. "Amazing! You didn't scare me." Chu Li flipped through it again. He closed his eyes and visualized it in his mind. He felt a weak force from the 6 vivid pictures, so he tried to visualize it. Roar. A tiger's roar echoed in his mind. A snow-white tiger leaped into his mind and made 6 poses. The aura was so strong that it was almost tangible. Suru stared at his face. Seeing the change in Chu Li's expression, Suru knew that he had learned something. He was able to understand the art of white tiger in such a short time. He was indeed a genius in martial arts. Chu Li slowly opened his eyes. He realized that his body was tense and filled with energy. He was affected by the art of white tiger. Suru smiled. "How is it?" "It's a very mysterious technique." Chu Li slowly nodded. "You cultivate it through visualization, right?" Suru smiled. "You're quite smart. This is a top-notch secret technique. It's said that it was passed down from the ancient White Tiger Cave." White Tiger Cave. Chu Li pondered and searched his mind. There was no record of this White Tiger Cave. He smiled. "It can't be from Nanjing, right?" He guessed that it was a sect from Nanjing based on the name. Most of the people in Nanjing were barbarians. They lived deep in the mountains and forests. Each tribe was named after a cave. The White Tiger Cave sounded like a tribe from Nanjing. "It's from Nanjing." Suru gently nodded. "It's been passed down for thousands of years. Unfortunately, it's extinct. No matter how strong a person is, they can't stop natural disasters." It said that a giant rock fell from the sky, and the white tiger cave disappeared. Chu Li slowly nodded. The barbarians there had their own system of techniques. They focused on body, refinement. Each of them had extraordinary strength and speed. Unfortunately, their martial arts were too big and lacked finesse. Hence, they did not have an overwhelming advantage. Some people wanted to take advantage of their strengths and make up for their weaknesses. Unfortunately, it was not easy to have the best of both worlds. Until now, no one had achieved it. It was as difficult as merging day and night. There was no way to go against this rule. The Tempest Temple's sentient menace had the shadow of Nanzheng's techniques. After the enlightened monks of the Tempest Temple studied it, it became a mystical technique that could turn one's body into a saint. Chapter 79. Su Ru said, "I'll lend it to you for a few days. Don't tell anyone. This belongs to Lady Xiao." "I'll remember it." Chu Li smiled and returned it to her. "Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Lady Xiao." Su Ru took it and put it back in her sleeve. "I forgot that you have a photographic memory. Lady Xiao said that the torso tuning is just a little bit. Don't mess up your priorities. It's still the sentient menace." "Of course." Chu Li nodded slowly. He visualized the white tiger illustration again. In his mind, the white tiger made 6 movements. This time, he activated the omniscient mirror and saw an invisible force permeating out of thin air. It was like an invisible thread that drilled into his body. After the invisible thread drilled into his body underwent a strange change. Although it was subtle, it could not be hidden from the omniscient mirror. His flesh became firmer, as if it was purified of some unknown impurities. Su Ru saw him close his eyes and knew that he was trying to cultivate it. She shook her head. She had cultivated the sun-cultivating white tiger illustration before, but there was no effect. She could not visualize it at all. Once she closed her eyes, all she could see was darkness. Chu Li suddenly opened his eyes. There was a flash of light in his eyes. "How is it?" Su Ru asked. Chu Li shook his head. "It's a little strange." "What's wrong?" Su Ru asked. "I feel like I haven't had enough." Chu Li frowned. "This sun-cultivating white tiger illustration is incomplete, right? You can tell?" Su Ru was surprised. Chu Li said, "Is it really incomplete?" "Yes, this is only the first half." Su Ru nodded. "Everyone thinks that the sun-cultivating white tiger illustration has been lost. To be able to find the first half is already extremely lucky. I've never heard of the second half." Chu Li frowned. Su Ru said, "Lady Xiao said that the first half is already powerful enough for you to cultivate the sentient menace. There's no need to be obsessed with the second half." Chu Li did not say anything. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. "Why? Do you really want the second half?" Chu Li said, "I feel uneasy without the second half." Many secret manuals had traps everywhere. The good ones would secretly add a few sentences at the end. If one did not pay attention, they might go astray. Many of them were hidden and not explicitly stated. There were even some that were not mentioned at all. They were not recorded on paper and were only passed down by word of mouth. This was to prevent the secret manuals from being stolen. Although the barbarians of the southern wasteland were straightforward, they couldn't be underestimated because of this. They had to guard against them. Su Ru shook her head and said, "That's the common problem of smart people, suspicion." Chu Li smiled. "Not even a little bit." Su Ru shook her head. "No." Chu Li frowned and remained silent. Su Ru said, "There's no way to investigate this. Think about it. Who would tell an outsider about the secret manual? Moreover, what he got was only the second half. Like you, would he dare to practice it? If I don't practice, no one will find out. Chu Li shook his head. Not necessarily. The sun-cultivating white tiger portrait was very mysterious. Even if others obtained the secret manual, they might not be able to resist the temptation. No matter how dangerous it was, they would still want to practice it. Under such a strong temptation, it was very easy to hold on to a sliver of hope. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him and said, "Anyway, I haven't heard anything." Chu Li said, "Then who in the martial arts world is famous for their physique cultivation? If they cultivated the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait, they would definitely not be unknown. Physique cultivation is useless. There are very few who practice it." Su Ru furrowed her brows and thought for a while. She moved her slender fingers. "Let me think. Iron Head Hu Jing, Iron Fist Jing Xiaobai, Three-Eyed Dragon King Ding Wei Song. I think only the three of them are famous. There are a few others, but they're not that great." Chu Li pondered and said, "The secret manual might be among the three of them." "You're too imaginative." Su Ru shook her head and laughed. Chu Li said, "Do you have any information about the three of them?" Su Ru looked at him and saw that he was serious. She said helplessly, "All right, I'll go get it." "Thank you, Chief." Chu Li fist saluted. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him and left. After a while, she came back with 3 booklets in her hand. She passed them to Chu Li. "Here they are." Chu Li quickly flipped through the 3 booklets and imprinted them in his mind. He passed them back to Su Ru. "Are they all assassins?" "Physique cultivators, as assassins, are blessed by nature. Physique cultivation is also very expensive. If you're not born in a rich family, you can only rob to help yourself. In short, you must have a windfall." "That's true." Chu Li nodded. Physique cultivators and martial arts cultivators looked different. Martial artists were full of energy, and their eyes were bright. Even when they cultivated to a high level, their temples and the top of their heads would look different. Physique cultivators were different. They could not cultivate inner energy. They could only train their flesh and blood. On the outside, they looked thin and weak, like a weak patient. It was very difficult to guard against them. It was very easy to hide and deceive. Moreover, martial artists generally looked down on physique cultivators, so it was easy to kill them. Physique cultivators were fast and strong, but they had little potential. They could not compare to martial artists in the later stages, but they had an advantage in the early stages. If they mastered a martial art technique that could kill in one hit, it would be very powerful and hard to guard against. The second half is probably with Ding Wei Song. Chu Li said, "What do you mean?" Su Ru smiled. She did not believe that it was possible to guess who had the secret manual just by sitting at home and playing with his fingers. What a fantasy! Hu Jing cultivated his head. Jing Xiaobai cultivated his hands. Only Ding Wei Song is fast and strong. He does not have any outstanding body parts, but he is the most powerful among the 3. He must have cultivated the art of white tiger. What if he cultivated something else? I've seen the secret manuals in our public house's martial arts hall. All the physique cultivation techniques, once mastered, are very difficult to pose a threat to an innate master. It's really useless. Ding Wei Song's physique cultivation technique is better than all the ones in the public house. It's very likely that he cultivated the art of white tiger. Okay, let's just say it's him. Su Ru spread her hands. "You won't be able to find this guy. He's an assassin. His whereabouts are erratic. It's impossible to find him. Our public house can't find him." "I really can't." Su Ru shook her head. Chu Li laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Su Ru scoffed. "Hu Jing and Jing Xiaobai can be found with a little effort. But this Ding Wei Song is very mysterious and cunning. No one even knows what he looks like." Chu Li laughed. "Then I'm even more sure. that he has the art of white tiger. Even if he doesn't, the technique he has is worth cultivating. You want to deal with him?" Su Ru tilted her head and looked at Chu Li for the physique cultivation technique. "If he was a gentleman, I would not do this. But he is an assassin, so I have nothing to worry about. Too bad you can't find him." Su Ru pouted. "Don't waste your time." Chu Li smiled. Su Ru saw that he was confident and said impatiently, "What stupid idea did you come up with this time?" Chu Li said, "You can't look for this guy. You have to let him look for you." "Nonsense." Su Ru shook her head. "Since he is an assassin, he has to be found, right? I heard that as long as the banknote is deposited in Flying Dragon Bank and the name of the person you want to kill is written on the banknote, if the banknote is returned, it means that he did not accept the mission. If the banknote is not returned, it means that he accepted the mission." Flying Dragon Bank. Chu Li frowned. "Looks like he has a lot of connections." Su Ru nodded. "Flying Dragon Bank is all over the world. Not only the Great Qi dynasty, but also the Northern Li dynasty, Southern Zheng dynasty, Qiu dynasty, and Fu dynasty. They are very powerful. We can't touch them." Chu Li touched his chin. "You still want to look for him? I'll take out 10,000 taels and let him kill me. Someone tried this trick before. They wanted to avenge the person he killed, but they were killed." Su Ru scoffed. "No one dares to do this anymore. Why is this Ding Wei Song called the Three-Eyed Dragon King? It's because he can see through all the traps. No one can catch him. All the more reason to try." Chu Li said. Su Ru rolled her eyes at him. "Chu Li, if you really dare to do this, I will look for Lady Xiao." Chu Li looked at her. Su Ru stared at him calmly. Chu Li saw her determination. He smiled. "All right, I'll think about it." Su Ru stared at him. Chu Li spread his hands and smiled. "All right, I'll try to practice the first half of the scroll." "I won't look for him." Su Ru scoffed. "You know the consequences if you lie to me." "Of course." Chu Li nodded. He did not give up on looking for Ding Wei Song. However, it was not the right time to look for him. He could not ignore Su Ru's words. After all, she had good intentions. With the omniscient mirror, he would be able to detect any danger. He would stop practicing. Moreover, the 6 illustrations in the first half of the scroll were exquisite enough for him to practice for a while. Once he had the chance, he would look for Ding Wei Song. By then, Su Ru would have nothing to say. The East Garden was exceptionally beautiful in the evening. The sunset dyed the flowers and grass a rosy red. The lake rippled with red light with a hint of gold. The willow trees by the lake danced with the night breeze. Chu Li sat by the lake and practiced the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait under the willow tree. As he visualized, the energy from the void flowed into his body. His body began to change. As he practiced for a longer period of time, the changes became more obvious. His flesh became purer and lighter. Suddenly, he felt something. He opened his eyes and saw a boat floating in the distance. Zhaoying was standing on the boat. Her lake green gown fluttered in the wind. She waved at him from afar. Chu Li smiled and waved. Zhaoying landed in front of him. She brought a refreshing fragrance with her. "Brother, when did you come back?" "I just came back." Chu Li smiled. "Congratulations, sister." Zhaoying smiled. "Brother, you can tell?" Innate mastery's boundary. Chu Li looked at her and smiled. "Congratulations. It's all thanks to your torso refinement pill." Zhaoying smiled sweetly. Chu Li waved his hand. "Brother, let's go to town." Zhaoying smiled. "How about the New Moon brothel?" Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Zhaoying smiled. "Brother, you've never been to the New Moon brothel? How did you know?" Chu Li smiled. Zhaoying's face tensed up. Chu Li said, It was for official business. Zhao Ying pouted her cherry lips. When he came back, he ignored her and went to the New Moon brothel. This was really, thinking of this, she could not help but feel angry and sad. Chu Li sighed. I really can't tell you about this. I will keep it a secret, Zhao Ying quickly said. Chu Li smiled. I was ordered by the chief to go on a secret mission. Zhao Ying pouted and stared at him. Chapter 80. Let's go to the town for a walk. Chu Li said, I haven't been there for a long time. Brother, it's only been a month. Zhao Ying pursed her lips and smiled. Chu Li jumped onto the boat. Let's go. He would not tell anyone about the startling Cloud Association. If the news was leaked, the startling Cloud Association would be in danger. Zhao Ying did not ask further and jumped onto the boat. Let's go to the Sky Inn. The two boarded the boat, and with the help of their inner energy, the boat left quickly. They left the public house and strolled leisurely to the Sky Inn. The two came at the right time. There was a table by the window on the lively second floor. The two sat down and ordered a few dishes. Zhao Ying talked about what happened in the public house for the past month. She was influenced by Chu Li and was now concerned about these trivial matters. Chu Li chatted as he sipped on the wine. The lanterns were lit, and under the soft light, Zhao Ying looked even more beautiful. Her face was like white jade, and her eyes were full of colors. Chu Li was not drunk, but he was already tipsy. He picked up the glass and took a sip, staring at Zhao Ying's bright eyes. Zhao Ying felt that his gaze was getting hotter and hotter. Her cheeks could not help but heat up. "Be careful!" Her eyes widened and stared behind Chu Li. She pulled out her sword and stabbed. Chu Li moved his feet and used the shadow shift. A sickly, thin, middle-aged man behind him punched Chu Li's shadow with his right fist. He was tall and wore a long robe that had been washed to the point of being white. It was so wide that it looked like a bamboo pole was holding up the robe. His face was long and narrow, his complexion was sallow, and his eyes were drowsy as if he had not woken up from a dream. He did not look like he knew martial arts at all. He looked more like a middle-aged man who was always drunk. Ding! The tip of Zhao Ying's sword stabbed the middle-aged man's left palm. Chu Li turned around and stabbed. He saw that the tip of Zhao Ying's sword left a white mark in the middle of the man's palm. The skin was not broken either. It was obvious that the man had extraordinary endurance martial arts. Ding! Chu Li's sword stabbed the middle-aged man's heart. Chu Li felt the tip of the sword slip as if he had stabbed a stone. He did not have endurance martial arts and was wearing the heart protection mirror. "Who are you?" Chu Li stabbed again. The omniscient mirror was already activated. The middle-aged man scoffed and turned to leave. Chu Li appeared behind him in a flash and pressed his palm down. Bang! With a muffled sound, the middle-aged man flew out of the building through the window. In a flash, Chu Li appeared in midair once again and struck the middle-aged man's chest with his palm. Zhao Ying also flew out with her sword in hand, as light as a swallow. She couldn't borrow any strength when she was in midair, so she could only descend. She hurriedly brandished her long sword and displayed the flying swallow swordsmanship. Her body immediately slowed down. She tiptoed on a window on the second floor and glided out. Chu Li chased after the middle-aged man and struck him 3 times with his palm. Each strike was filled with inner energy that was as pure as needles, capable of penetrating the heart protection mirror. He already knew this person's identity. It was the 3-eyed Dragon King, Ding Weisong. He hadn't found Ding Weisong, but Ding Weisong had found him first. The mysteries of the world were unfathomable. Ugh! Ding Weisong could no longer withstand Chu Li's palm energy, and his internal organs were injured. He felt that he was like a stupid bear. His movements were too slow, and he had become a target for the other party to wreak havoc on him. Bang! Ding Weisong landed heavily on the ground, kicking up a cloud of yellow dust. Chu Li landed beside him. "Who asked you to come here?" Ding Weisong was lying on his back. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were still drowsy. He chuckled. "Chu Li, you really are worth 20,000 taels." Chu Li frowned. "What technique did you cultivate?" Ding Weisong suddenly rolled over and ran away. Ding! Zhao Ying fell from the sky, and the tip of her sword stabbed into his left shoulder. Ding Weisong's body froze for a moment, but Chu Li had already reached his back and pressed his palm down again. Bang! Ding Weisong was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood in midair, and his body suddenly sped up, turning into a wisp of smoke and disappearing from the main street. Before the onlookers could react, Ding Weisong had already disappeared. Chu Li frowned as he looked in the direction that Ding Weisong had escaped. What a fast speed! He must have activated his secret skill. He didn't want to reveal his imminent skyline technique. The Tempest Temple's influence was everywhere, so he had to be careful. Brother. Zhao Ying shook her long sword, unwillingly. Chu Li waved his hand. Forget it, let's ignore him for now. He'll come back, right? Chu Li shook his head. Who is he? Zhao Ying asked. Chu Li retracted his gaze. An assassin. He ran 1,000 miles away after missing his target. He won't come back. Let's go back and continue eating. Brother, you still have the mood to eat. Zhao Ying glared at him. This guy was too deceitful, and it was impossible to guard against him. Being stared at by such an assassin made her restless. She didn't manage to kill him this time, but if she didn't find out who the client was, there would definitely be another assassination attempt. Chu Li smiled. This kind of thing will happen often in the future. Don't worry about it. He almost succeeded. Zhao Ying said worriedly. How can we prevent it? Chu Li said, It's all thanks to you, sister. You flatter me. Zhao Ying glared at him fiercely. She was annoyed by his carelessness. He didn't care about his own life at all. Chu Li was in a good mood. He smiled and tugged at her sleeve. They went back upstairs and said to the shopkeeper, Shopkeeper, I'm sorry. I'll compensate you for your losses. We'll settle the bill after we finish eating. The shopkeeper smiled and nodded. He quickly gestured for them to go upstairs. Zhao Ying sat opposite Chu Li. She could see that he was in a good mood, downing cup after cup of fine wine. She could not help but laugh. Brother, why are you so happy to run into something like this? She thought that Chu Li's way of thinking was too strange. He didn't think of a way to deal with the situation, but instead acted as if he had found a treasure. Chu Li smiled. Shouldn't I be happy that I survived? He had caught Ding Weisong's thoughts and knew where he was going to escape to. More importantly, his speculation was right. Ding Weisong was indeed cultivating the art of white tiger. Aren't you worried about the future? Zhao Ying held the wine jar and filled his glass for him. Chu Li raised his glass and drank it in one gulp. I'm not a protector. I spend most of my time in the public house. No matter how powerful I am, I can't get in. Besides, Ding Weisong is not far from death if he dares to cause trouble in the town. Yes, the public house will definitely send out protectors to hunt him down. Zhao Ying nodded lightly. Anyone who caused trouble in the town had to be prepared to be punished by the public house. The public house would never allow people from the martial arts world to cause trouble in the town. Violators would be punished. If someone dared to kill someone, the public house would not be polite. The moon was in the middle of the sky, and the ice wheel was spinning slightly. Chu Li walked through Chong Ming Town silently. Soon, he arrived in front of a secluded house. Most of the houses in Old Scholar Tree Alley were the houses of the rich and powerful in the town. Every house had stone lions guarding the door, and some even had protectors. Lanterns lit up the alley as if it was daytime. Chu Li glided into a luxurious house and activated the omniscient mirror. The whole house appeared in front of him. The number of protectors, the number of men and women in the house, and what they were doing. He quickly found Ding Weisong. Ding Weisong was sitting cross-legged on a bed, his eyes closed, and channeling. It was a woodshed. There were piles of firewood around it. There was only a simple bed, which could only fit one person. Pieces of wood were scattered on the ground. Chapter 81. Chu Li observed Ding Weisong with the omniscient mirror. Ding Weisong was as weak as a 70-year-old man. The side effects of the secret skill were severe. Chu Li silently appeared in the woodshed and stood in front of Ding Weisong. Ding Weisong did not notice anything out of the ordinary. He was still cultivating to recover his vigor. His body and mind were exhausted, and his reaction was slower. Chu Li wanted to seal his acupuncture point, but he stopped. The acupuncture point of a physique cultivator was different from that of a martial artist. It was very likely that Ding Weisong would struggle violently. Ahem. Chu Li coughed. Ding Weisong opened his eyes, and his expression changed. He got up and prepared to run. Chu Li stopped him. You are at the end of your rope. Why bother? Let's talk. What is there to talk about? Ding Weisong secretly activated his secret skill again. He wanted to hit Chu Li when he relaxed. Chu Li asked, Where are you hiding the art of White Tiger? What art of White Tiger? Ding Weisong was confused. What did you say? What art of White Tiger? Chu Li smiled. This act was very deceptive. Let's change the question. You have earned a lot over the years, haven't you? Where are you hiding it? What do you want? Ding Weisong asked coldly. Chu Li smiled. The banknotes must be hidden in a secret place. Only you can take them yourself, right? You have earned so much money, but you don't spend it quickly. Don't you think it's funny? Brother Ding, do you really think you can live to old age? You don't have to worry about that. Ding Weisong scoffed. You want those banknotes? Chu Li said, Use the banknotes to buy your life. How much do you want? Ding Weisong sneered. Chu Li smiled. A beauty from the New Moon brothel costs 100,000 taels. You are a famous martial arts master. You can't be lower than the women from the New Moon brothel, right? Tell me how much? Ding Weisong scoffed. Chu Li thought for a while and extended his left hand. 500,000 taels. All right, deal. Ding Weisong said. Chu Li smiled. Brother Ding is a straightforward man. Ding Weisong took out a stack of banknotes and handed it to Chu Li. Here is 100,000 taels. Take it first and pay for the rest. As Chu Li extended his hand, Ding Weisong punched him. Chu Li dodged. Ding Weisong retracted his fist and shook his head. Impressive. He sighed inwardly. The best opportunity did not come to fruition. This surname Chu was also a cunning person. Chu Li smiled and said, Brother Ding, what you did was not right. All right, I'm convinced. Ding Weisong sighed. I'll give you the banknotes. I'll get the rest of the 400,000 taels as soon as possible. When did you get it? Chu Li did not take the banknote. He smiled and said, Just give it to me as well. I can't do it now, Ding Weisong said, shaking his head. I can't move it now, and no one else can take it out. At this moment, his face was even more sallow, as if it had been smeared with a layer of ginger juice. The consequence of activating the secret technique again was that his blood qi would dry up. At this moment, he felt that even speaking was a waste of energy. Chu Li looked at the banknote in his hand and smiled. This banknote is stained with something good. It's better if I don't touch it. Ding Weisong forced a smile. What a joke. The banknotes were smeared with poison, the 7 steps to break intestines. Brother Ding, where did you get the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait? What sun-cultivating white tiger portrait? Ding Weisong was confused. Could it be a secret martial arts manual? Chu Li sighed. Brother Ding, don't blame me then. Goodbye. As he finished speaking, he appeared behind Ding Weisong in a flash. With a flash of his sword, the long sword pierced through Ding Weisong's neck. Ding Weisong died instantly. Under normal circumstances, Ding Weisong's body would not have been so easily pierced through. However, Chu Li had lured him into using the secret technique twice. His blood qi was extremely weak, and he could not resist the sharp sword at all. Chu Li sighed and pulled out the sword. He wiped it on Ding Weisong's body and cut off a corner of his shirt. He wrapped the banknote and put it in his pocket. Then he silently floated out of the residence and out of the town. The moonlight was like water, and the night was hazy. Chu Li flashed through the depths of the forest like a shadow. He was rushing towards the place where Ding Weisong hid the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait. The person who hired Ding Weisong to assassinate him was Feng Shikai, Feng Wen's father, a famous martial arts master. Chu Li was not in a hurry to find Feng Shikai. He guessed that the disciples of the Tempest Temple were waiting for him there. He would let Feng Shikai live for a while longer. Once he found the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait and mastered the sentient menace, he would be able to fight the disciples of the Tempest Temple and kill Feng Shikai. The imminent skyline consumed a lot of inner energy, but it was extremely fast. In the middle of the night, he had run more than 1,000 miles and arrived at a large mountain. The morning sun was exceptionally bright. Standing at the foot of the mountain and looking up, one could only see the snow-covered mountainside. The peak was covered by clouds. Chu Li used the imminent skyline and quickly arrived at a cave halfway up the mountain. He was surrounded by ice and snow. When he stepped on it, it was as hard as stone. It was not as soft as snow. The cave was sealed by ice and snow. It was no different from the surrounding ice walls. If he had not known beforehand, he would not have been able to tell. He used his palm energy to break the ice and entered the cave. After avoiding the traps, he saw a simple stone table, a white porcelain teapot, and a pile of dried meat and food beside it. This was Ding Weisong's hiding place. Other than going down the mountain to do missions and occasionally to vent his anger, he usually stayed here. That was why no one could find him. There was a wooden box on the stone table. He picked up a piece of ice from outside and cut it into a stick. Then he gently pried open the box. Inside the box was a thin, yellowish booklet. It was exactly the same as the secret manual of the art of White Tiger that Chu Li had seen before. Chu Li hit the wooden box with the popsicle and broke it into a few pieces. He took out his sword and lightly lifted the booklet with the tip of the sword. On the cover, the words "Sun-Cultivating White Tiger Portrait" were written in gold and silver strokes. The handwriting was the same as the one he had seen before. It was obvious that it was written by the same person. However, there was no upper or lower volume written on it. Chu Li knew that Ding Weisong did not realize that he had only cultivated the lower volume. He thought that there were only 6 illustrations of the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait. Even so, he could only visualize one. He could not see the other 5 clearly. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. This was because he did not have enough spiritual energy. He was injured by the tiger's force and could not suppress the white tiger's murderous aura and power. Chu Li quickly finished looking at the 6 illustrations. He was deep in thought. He stood still and visualized. The 12 illustrations flashed in his mind one by one. Eventually, they flashed faster and faster. Suddenly, they disappeared. His mind was pitch black. Chu Li calmed himself down. The omniscient mirror allowed him to be at ease. Even though his mind was pitch black, he was not anxious or impatient. Roar! A mighty roar was heard. His whole body trembled along with the sound. A turbulent force came from the void. Previously, it was like a thin thread. Now it had become a torrent. It rushed into his body in an overbearing manner. It was as if his flesh and bones were being crushed. The pain was like the waves of the sea. He could not help but tremble. The long and mighty roar of the tiger shattered the darkness. His mind was filled with light. A white tiger that was 10 times bigger appeared in his mind. The tiger's claws stepped on the void. Its fur moved nonstop, as if a strong wind was blowing. The clouds followed the dragon, and the wind followed the tiger. This was the real white tiger. The giant white tiger moved in the void. There were 12 movements in total. It was imposing. The pain that felt like 1,000 cuts suddenly disappeared. His body felt warm. The overbearing force in the void seemed to have turned into a hot spring warming his body. Chu Li opened his eyes and looked down. His clothes were drenched. His whole body emitted a pungent smell. It was nauseating. He quickly took off his clothes and ran outside to roll around in the snow. He left black marks on the snow. It was like a layer of black oil was smeared on the snow. Chapter 82. By the time he returned to the public house, it was not even noon yet. The sun-cultivating white tiger portrait was indeed amazing. He had received 600,000 taels of silver, and his wallet was full again. As usual, Xue Ling made a few delicious dishes and warmed a pot of wine for him. Chu Li's stomach was empty, but he ate to his heart's content. It felt like home. He was enjoying his meal in the pagoda when the door to the courtyard was pushed open. Su Ru's apricot gown fluttered in the wind. She walked into the pagoda with her bright eyes, glaring at him fiercely. Chu Li was surprised. "Chief, do you want to eat together?" "Chu Li." Su Ru's face tightened. Chu Li said, "About Ding Wei song?" Su Ru said angrily, "What did you promise me?" "Chief, let me explain." Chu Li looked at her with a smile. "Speak." Su Ru scoffed. "Let's see how you explain." Chu Li smiled. "If I say that I did not hire Ding Wei song, would you believe me?" "Who?" "Feng Shikai." "Him." Su Ru's eyes narrowed. How could he be so daring? Although Feng Shikai was a martial artist and an innate master to the public house, killing him was as easy as stepping on an ant. Chu Li was a member of the public house. If he really died, the public house would definitely investigate. It seemed that Feng Shikai was certain that the public house would not be able to find Ding Wei song. "Chief, don't underestimate the people of the martial arts world. They are hot-blooded. Feng Wen died in my hands. How could Feng Shikai bear it? Yes, he only had one son." Su Ru believed Chu Li. Feng Shikai was a smooth old man, but no matter how smooth he was, he still had a sore spot. Feng Wen was his only son. No matter how useless he was still his son. In the end, he was killed by Chu Li. She could understand the pain of losing a son. Feng Shikai was worried about Chu Li's identity in the public house. He could not do it himself, so it was natural for him to get someone else to do it. Ding Wei song was really hired by him. Chu Li nodded. "Absolutely. This Feng fella." Su Ru pursed her lips and snorted. Even though he understood the pain of losing his son, he still found someone to kill a scribe from the High Duke's public house. Moreover, it was a rank 5 scribe. This could not be forgiven. Otherwise, how could the dignity of the High Duke's public house be preserved? Chu Li said, "There's no hurry to deal with him. With him around, we can distract the people from the Tempest Temple." He guessed that the disciples of the Tempest Temple would still be there, waiting for him to come to them. This way, he would be restricting the disciples of the Tempest Temple, and he would be able to have more freedom. "Does Ding Wei song have the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait?" Su Ru asked with a faint smile. Chu Li nodded slowly. Su Ru's eyes widened and she asked in surprise, "Really?" Chu Li said, "He cultivated the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait, but unfortunately he only managed to cultivate one. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so useless. Ding Wei song is already very powerful. He was able to escape from you, and Zhao Ying," Su Ru said. "Zhao Ying is now an innate master." Chu Li said, "The sun-cultivating white tiger portrait is amazing. It's really embarrassing for him to look like this. Does Lady Xiao want the next volume?" Su Ru shook her head. "Lady Xiao is not interested." Chu Li smiled. Combining the first and second volumes of the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait is not a secret manual. You won't be able to learn anything from the first volume. Su Ru asked curiously, is it because it's not complete? Chu Li said, if you can't learn the first volume, then it's better not to learn it. The requirements for the complete volume are even stricter. If my dermic base is slightly weaker, I'll be driven crazy by it. Splitting it into 2 volumes is also a sign of kindness from the elders of the White Tiger Cave. Is that so? Su Ru was even more curious. Chu Li smiled. Xue Ling, prepare a brush and ink. Yes. Xue Ling stood at the side and listened quietly. She would pour tea for them from time to time. She brought a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. She ground the ink with her bare hands and passed the brush to Chu Li. When she was done, Chu Li started drawing, and in one breath, he drew 6 tiger portraits. On each piece of paper, there was a white tiger in different poses, but they were all lifelike. Chu Li put down the brush and smiled at Su Ru. Chief, these are the 6 portraits. Your drawing skills are not bad. Su Ru praised him. She stared at the 6 tiger portraits and then closed her eyes. Ah, she suddenly screamed and held her head. Chu Li looked at her with a faint smile. Su Ru put down her hand after a long time. Her face was pale and her temperament became weaker. What happened? Chu Li asked. How did it feel? I visualized the first portrait, and my head felt like it was going to split open. You don't have enough energy. Don't force yourself. All right. Su Ru sighed and gave up. Then you should focus on your cultivation. Master the sentient menace as soon as possible. Then you won't have to be afraid of those stupid monks. Su Ru waved her hand and turned to leave. The night was like water. Chu Li practiced the art of White Tiger twice in the house. He got up and went to the courtyard to practice the sentient menace. After 72 movements, he could almost hear the blood in his body gurgling. The sentient menace had improved a lot. The effect of the art of White Tiger was strong, but he was still worried. He did not know when it would lose its effect. It was too difficult to master the sentient menace. The 4 Tempest temple disciples that he killed did not know how to cultivate the sentient menace. After all, no one in the temple had mastered it. He practiced the sun-cultivating White Tiger portrait twice and the sentient menace once. He repeated the cycle, going in and out of the house, going in and out, concentrating on his cultivation for the whole day. On the evening of the second day, his body suddenly flashed with a golden light, like a golden man standing proudly under the setting sun. Xue was stunned and stared at him blankly. Chu Li clenched his fists and smiled. Xue quickly asked, Master, you've mastered it? Chu Li shook his wrists and rotated his arms. He smiled and said, Only the 2nd level. I still have to congratulate you, Master. Xue praised. She saw how much Chu Li had suffered and how many times he had been beaten. Now that he had finally paid off and mastered the 2nd level, she had to work harder. Chu Li stopped laughing. The next level was to train his tendons. Once mastered, his strength would increase greatly and his speed would be faster. He might even be able to compete with the innate masters of the Tempest Temple. Xue, take the sword in the pagoda and stab me. Yes. Xue took the sword that was hanging on the pillar and jumped out of the pagoda. She landed in front of Chu Li and stabbed his shoulder with the sword. Ding! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. The tip of the sword could not pierce through. Chu Li smiled. Try harder. Ding! Xue stabbed him 10 times in one breath. Ding, ding, ding. Xue stabbed him 10 times in one breath. Chapter 83. Xue looked down at the long sword. This sword, she carried the sword to the woodshed and slashed at a tree stump the size of a plate. Swoosh! The sword was cut in half without any resistance. Xue looked at the tree stump and then at the sword in her hand. Although it could not cut through iron like mud, it was not a normal long sword. To be able to block such a sharp sword, the sentient menace was indeed powerful. Chu looked at her with a smile. Master, if that's the case, aren't you invincible? Xue asked. Invincible, there's nothing to be afraid of. Chu smiled. There's no such thing as invincible martial arts. If it's a treasure sword, it might not be able to block it. If it's an innate master, it might not be able to break it. Then let's find a treasure sword and try. Xue was eager. Where's the treasure sword? I'll go find the chief. Xue quickly ran out. Suru followed her into the courtyard. A dark green sword hung on her slender waist. It made people worry that her waist would be crushed. Chu closed fist saluted and smiled. It's good that the sword is here. Why did you call the chief? Why can't I come? Suru slowly walked to him and looked him up and down. You've mastered the second level? Chu smiled. The art of White Tiger is indeed useful. Watch my sword. Suru suddenly shouted. A cold light flashed and stabbed towards Chu-Li's shoulder. Chu-Li did not dodge. The tip of the sword stabbed into his shoulder, but it could not go in. The skin below the tip sank half an inch. Interesting. Suru sheathed her sword and stared at his shoulder. It can even reduce force. Once you've mastered the second level, you can be both hard and soft. But you can't always channel it, right? Suru smiled. Another cold light flashed on her waist and stabbed Chu-Li's shoulder. Chu-Li still did not dodge. The tip of the sword sank into his skin. Are you prepared? Or is it the effect of the sentient menace? Suru asked in surprise. Chu-Li smiled. The technique can be changed at will. He had the life and death scripture and could control energy within 100 meters. With the eternity blade and the interference of energy, it was not easy to kill the monks from the Tempest Temple. It's really mysterious. It's far from the usual torso tuning technique. Suru sighed. The Great Lane Temple is famous for its absolute art. Of course, it has its own uniqueness. However, it's only the second level. You're still far from it. Suru stared at him and poured cold water on him to prevent him from getting cocky. As far as she knew, most of the Tempest Temple's disciples had only mastered the first level. Very few of them had mastered the second level, and the third level was even rarer. After all, mastering the first level was enough. Chu-Li smiled. Cultivating the first level of the sentient menace consumed a lot of inner energy. Cultivating the second level would double the amount of inner energy consumed. He estimated that cultivating the third level would double the amount. If this continued, who knew how many floors they would reach? Who would still be able to cultivate? But then again, it made sense. Becoming a Buddha and becoming an ancestor was something that only happened once every 10 million years. If it was that easy to achieve sainthood with one's physical body, there would have been Buddhas all over the world. Chu-Li came to the gazebo and sat down. Chief, has Gulitong's matter been resolved? Suru sat opposite him and sighed. Xue served 2 cups of tea. The white jade cups were soaked in the tender green tea. The moist green color was like the dew on the willow branches. It's not over yet. It's not that easy. Suru took the white jade teacup and blew on the hot tea. She took a sip and sighed again. Lu Yurong is very powerful. She already knew that we were going to chase after him. She divided her men into several groups to mislead us. These groups are all fake. Is Gu Litong still in the Chongming house? Impossible. Suru put down the white jade teacup. If he really is in the Chongming house, he won't be able to hide from our eyes. Chu-Li laughed. Suru scoffed. What are you laughing at? Chuli waved his hand. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. Suru glanced at him and said snappily, Yes, I was careless and let Gu Litong go missing. But that was because I didn't care about him. Now that all our spies have been mobilized, he won't be able to hide in the Chongming house. Chuli took a sip of tea and held the white jade teacup thoughtfully. So, he has already left the Chongming house, but we don't know which path he took. That's very troublesome. If he can leave without a trace, then he can come in without a trace. Chuli took another sip of tea and put down the teacup. It's impossible to guard against him. What can we do? Suru scoffed. We can't really make the Chongming house impenetrable, right? Chuli smiled. With the power of the House of High Dukes, why can't we? Suru tilted her head and looked at him. How do we do it? Chuli picked up the white jade teacup again and took a sip leisurely. Hurry up, don't keep us in suspense. Suru urged. Chuli put down the teacup and put up 4 fingers. Set up 4 layers of nets. Suru nodded and listened attentively. Chuli pressed his index finger. The first layer, the tea houses and pubs outside the town. He pressed his middle finger. The second layer, the town gate. He pressed his ring finger. The third layer, the taverns and restaurants. He smiled and pressed his last little finger. The fourth layer, the patrolling public security officers. With these 4 layers of nets, no one will be able to escape. Suru was deep in thought. Chuli picked up the white jade teacup again and took a sip. This way, if there's any trouble, we can immediately grasp it and deal with it. We can even take action first. Suru looked at Chuli and pursed her lips. Chuli, it's a waste of your talent to be a scribe. Chuli smiled. I'm just an armchair strategist. It's not worth laughing at. Suru rolled her eyes at him and thought about what Chuli said. The House of High Dukes had also set up spies in the town, but most of them were from beggars and hawkers. They had eyes and ears all over the town and were very thorough. However, after hearing what Chuli said, she felt that there was a flaw. It could be improved. I'll go and discuss with Lady Xiao. Suru stood up and waved her hand to indicate that he did not need to send her off. She glided away. Chuli smiled and sipped his tea. He still had a long way to go before he could be in power. Night fell, and the moon shone brightly like a hook. Chuli glided out of the courtyard and left the east garden in a small boat without alerting Li Yu. He left the House of High Dukes and passed through Chongming town. He left the town and headed towards Feng Shirtsai's manor. He wanted to kill Feng Shirkai. If he did not, Feng Shirkai would continue to find people to kill him. He had mastered the 2nd level of the sentient menace. Even if he was chased by the Tempest Temple, he was confident that he could escape unscathed. Moreover, he still had the imminent skyline. As he glided through the forest, he sighed. His influence was too weak, and he had no eyes and ears. If he could be in power in the House of High Dukes, he would not need to go out and search. He would not even need to do anything. Unfortunately, his time in the House of High Dukes was too short. His experience was limited. As a rank 5 martial artist, it was difficult for him to wield power. He would need to train for a few years before he could have any hope. Even if he kept adding weight to himself, there were not many opportunities. It was just slightly better than nothing. If he wanted to get things done easily, he had to cultivate some forces. The startling Cloud Association was one of them. If he had the chance, he could expand it a few more times. Even if he could not wield power, he would not be weak. If he could wield power in the future, he would be able to do things more effectively. His thoughts were in turmoil. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Through the omniscient mirror, he could see a gray-robed elder gliding 300 meters behind him. The surging waves of energy were completely contained within his body. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. A grandmaster. Chu Li changed his direction and left the Feng family's manor. He headed south. The gray-robed elder also changed his direction. It was obvious that he was following him. If it was not for the omniscient mirror, it would have been difficult to notice his presence. Chapter 84. Chu Li used the omniscient mirror to its fullest and read the old man's mind. He smiled. It seemed like the lady was very concerned about him. She sent a grandmaster to protect him secretly. Thinking of this, he became more courageous. He turned and headed towards the Feng residence's mountain village. Before he reached the Feng residence's mountain village, his expression changed. The Tempest Temple really did leave someone here. However, it was different from what he expected. It was not a group of people. It was just a disciple of the Tempest Temple. A young and handsome monk in a gray robe sat quietly on a couch in a house. He was motionless and had already started meditating. He was about the same age as Chu Li. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He had a prominent nose and a square mouth. He was extraordinarily handsome. His thin and slender body contained a turbulent power. He was even more powerful than the old man behind him. Chu Li sighed. The Tempest Temple was full of hidden talents. He could not underestimate them. Chu Li did not need to fight to know that he was no match for them. Feng Shikai was next to the young monk. He had already fallen asleep. With the protection of the Tempest Temple disciple, he slept peacefully. He even had a beautiful girl in his arms. Chu Li stood outside the mountain village and pondered. Should he kill the young monk first or Feng Shikai? He would kill the young monk first. Once he killed him, killing Feng Shikai would be a piece of cake. He activated the imminent skyline. Spiritual energy surged into his body from all directions. He disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he broke through the window and landed in front of the young monk. He swung his hand, and a cold light flashed. Ding! The flying dagger bounced off his throat as if it had hit a rock. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and appeared behind the monk. He sighed. The young monk reacted quickly. When the flying knife was about to hit him, he used the sentient menace to block it. A grandmaster really had an intuition for danger. He could use it at will. Chi! A soft whistle was heard. A pure energy attacked his back. Chu Li disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared 10 feet away. The young monk was like a shadow under the moonlight. He floated towards Chu Li and pointed his right index finger at his back. Chi! Another energy attacked Chu Li's back. Chu Li had already activated the omniscient mirror. He could see the situation behind him. The young monk pointed out lightly. The power of this finger was astonishing. A formless inner force shot out from his fingertip and tore through the air like a flying knife. It was the release of inner force. Chu Li did not take the risk to block it. As soon as his opponent moved his finger, he dodged it. Even though his opponent's ethereal body movement technique was extremely fast, it was still slightly inferior to the imminent skyline. The force of the finger landed on the ground, creating a small hole. Chu Li sighed to himself. If the force of the finger had landed on his body, he might not have been able to block it with his second level of the sentient menace. The young monk continuously pointed his finger at Chu Li while Chu Li activated the imminent skyline. It was as if he was using the incarnation technique. Under the moonlight, more than 10 human figures appeared, but all the finger energy hit were illusions. In the blink of an eye, the two of them chased after each other for 2. Li Chu Li entered a forest and activated imminent skyline even more ferociously. Within a few breaths, the young monk could no longer sense Chu Li as he had completely disappeared. The young monk stood on the treetop. Under the moonlight, his head shone brightly. He furrowed his brows and scanned the surroundings with his lightning-quick gaze, but he could not find Chu Li. On the opposite peak, Chu Li suddenly appeared and let out a long roar. The young monk looked up, but Chu Li was already 1,000 meters away. It was hopeless to chase after him. Chu Li let out a long laugh. Monk's Dharma name? Amit Ba. I am Fa Yuan. The young monk pressed his palms together and bowed. Almsgiver Chu, Li has great light body technique. Chu Li said loudly, Monk Fa Yuan has great finger energy. What technique is it? He clearly saw the heart technique of Fa Yuan's finger energy and the route of his inner energy. Unfortunately, he was not in the Grandmaster's boundary, so he could not release his inner energy. He could only use it when he reached the Grandmaster's boundary. Spear Finger Strike. Monk, your sentient menace has reached the 3rd level, right? Yes. Good, good. You are indeed powerful. We will meet again, if fate allows it. Chu Li let out a long laugh. His figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Fa Yuan closed his eyes and let out a sigh. He had personally attacked him, and yet he could not kill him. Brother Fa Shan's words were indeed true. This person was cunning and difficult to deal with. He turned around and fluttered back to the villa. He returned to the quiet room and sat cross-legged on the couch. He was startled. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. He quickly used his inner energy to listen. There was only one person breathing next door. He did not care to avoid arousing suspicion. He opened the door with one palm and stepped in. There was nothing strange in the room. There were no signs of forced entry. He came to the couch and lifted the bed curtain. Feng Shikai and a beautiful woman were lying on the bed. The woman only wore a red tutu, revealing her fair shoulders and arms. He glanced at them without changing his expression. He looked at Feng Shikai, and his handsome face darkened. Feng Shikai had a square face and big ears. He was lying there motionless. He was calm and peaceful, as if he was in a deep sleep. Fa Yuan reached out to check Feng Shirsai's breath. There was no breath. He was dead. It was Chu Li who came back to kill Feng Shikai. He was fooled. Even if he was well-versed in Buddhism and was born with wisdom, he could not help but feel ignorant. His eyes were bright, and he wanted to kill Chu Li with one palm. Chu Li returned to the house of High Duke without a sound. The gray-robed elder returned as well. He sat on the couch in the west wing of East Floral Courtyard. He quietly recalled the scene with Fa Yuan. He clearly replayed every move he made. He pondered over Fa Yuan's martial arts and how to deal with him next time. If he did not have imminent skyline, he would not have been able to escape Fa Yuan's pursuit. A grandmaster at such a young age was terrifying. Fa Yuan was the first person to avoid the Eternity Blade. A grandmaster's spiritual energy was awakened, and they had a sense of danger. The 3rd level of the sentient menace was powerful. It could block the invasion of inner energy. The Eternity Blade could not break it. If he wanted to break his sentient menace, he would need a stronger flying blade. More importantly, the purity of his inner energy. If he was a grandmaster, Fa Yuan would not be able to block the flying blade. The spear finger strike was a powerful finger force. Unfortunately, he could not cultivate it now. He could not release his inner energy. Cultivating it would be harmful. Intuitively, he knew that his sentient menace would not be able to block the spear finger strike. He had to improve his sentient menace as soon as possible. When the sentient menace was cultivated to the 4th level, he would be able to cultivate his meridians. By then, the infinite azure sea might have 4 or even 5 or 6 folds. Its power might be able to block a Grandmaster's attack. He cleared his thoughts and visualized the art of White Tiger. Strange energy surged from the heavens and the earth, entering his body and changing his flesh. In the morning, he cultivated the sentient menace once and improved at lightning speed. At this rate, it would not take long for the 3rd level to be perfected. He was very excited. In the morning, he went to the Jade Guardian Island after breakfast. He pushed open the door of the courtyard and saw Suru sitting in the pagoda. Her apricot gown was spotless. Her beautiful face and the white jade teacup in her hand complemented each other. Chu Li entered the pagoda and sat opposite her. Suru put down the white jade teacup and looked at him. "I found Gu Litong." Xue Ling served the teacup and stood behind Chu Li. Chu Li opened the teacup and took a sip. "Where?" "Whitestone Town." "Whitestone Town." Chu Li searched for its location in his mind. He muttered, "It's 1,000 miles away. We should be halfway there, right?" Whitestone Town was located between Chongming Town and Deng State Town. The Rin Public House was located in Deng State Town. Chapter 85. Yes. Suru sighed. Chu Li stood up and paced back and forth. He muttered, "If that's the case, then he has indeed fallen into the hands of the Rin Public House. What do you think, Lady Xiao?" "Miss didn't say." Suru looked troubled. "She's still hesitating." Chu Li nodded. "You haven't sent anyone over yet, have you?" Suru looked up at him. Chu Li said, "Why don't I do it?" This matter was very difficult to handle. Gu Litong's life or death was not that important, but the eldest young master was the key. If they were not careful, they would offend the eldest young master. Suru shook her head and said, "It's better not to touch this matter." Chu Li said, "Let's go and meet the lady." Suru frowned. Chu Li smiled and said, "Actually, it's not that complicated. One is to save, the other is to kill. We can't just ignore it, right?" "This is too troublesome." Suru frowned. "It's not as simple as you make it out to be. Let's simplify things. No matter what, I have to share Lady Zhao's worries. Let's go." Chu Li smiled and got up to leave. Suru hesitated for a moment, then followed him out. The two arrived at the stargazing tower and went straight to the 3rd floor. Xiao Qi leaned against the window and looked into the distance. As the sunlight shone in, her fair face emitted a warm luster, and her eyes were overflowing with colors. She was so beautiful that she did not seem like a mortal. "My lady!" Chu Li gave a fist salute. Xiao Qi turned around, and her clear eyes fell on his face. "Did Suru tell you?" "Yes, Gu Litong has arrived at Whitestone City." "What do you think?" "Leave it to me." Chu Li said, "I'll handle it." Xiao Qi looked at him quietly. "What do you want to do?" "We'll beat them at their own game and plot against the Rin Public House," Chu Li said. Xiao Qi pondered. "Beat him at his own game?" Chu Li said, "If I were Lu Yurong, I would have predicted that we would either save Gu Litong or kill him. He would be the best bait." Chu Li said, "Set up an ambush and take his life." "You want a counter-ambush?" "Yes, it should be enough to divide the manpower into 3 groups." "Where's Gu Litong?" "What does Miss want to do with him?" "Save him." "Yes," Chu Li agreed without hesitation. Xiao Qi smiled. "You don't plan to use him as a spy?" She had heard of Chu Li's original plan to make Gu Litong a mole, but she did not expect Chu Li to not even mention it this time. Chu Li said, "That was then, and this is now. The current situation is not suitable. It's best to start with the people from the Rin Public House, if you want to find an insider." In his opinion, It would be easier and more effective to look for the people from the Rin public house instead of Gu Litong. Even if Gu Litong entered the Rin public house, he would not be able to get any useful information in a short period of time. That's good. Xiao Qi nodded. Previously, he was worried that he would be eager to render meritorious service. However, after hearing his words, he was relieved. He was smart and calm enough. He slowly said, "Save Gu Litong." "Yes," Chu Li replied. Xiao Qi gently nodded. "How many people do you need?" Chu Li asked, "How many masters does Gu Litong have with him?" Su Ru immediately said, "There are 4 innate masters." Chu Li pondered for a moment and said, "Then I need at least 40 innate masters. It would be best if there are grandmasters." "Grandmasters are impossible." Xiao Qi shook her head. Chu Li said helplessly, "Then 40 innate masters it is." Su Ru said, "That many people? Lu Yurong might be prepared for us to beat her at her own game." Chu Li said. Su Ru looked at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi thought for a moment. 40 innate masters. "Thank you, Lady Xiao." Chu Li fist saluted. Xiao Qi nodded. Su Ru, help Chu Li. "Yes, Lady Xiao." Su Ru said. Gu Litong sat in front of a square table and stared at the window. The light cast his shadow on the paper window. He was alone and inexplicably lonely. He was in a small courtyard in Jinxingin. He was in the middle bedroom. Sigh. Gu Litong let out a long sigh. There were 2 innate masters in the living room on the right and another 2 innate masters in the courtyard outside. They were there to protect him, but in fact, they were there to monitor him and not let him escape. His face was haggard and his eyes were blank. He still could not understand why Zhou Yuding would betray him and tell Master Xiao Taiying what he had done. Master Xiao Taiying was furious and punished him. Although he had always treated Zhou Yuding as a tool, he thought that he had done a good job. Zhou Yuding treated him as a friend and should not have betrayed him. Sigh. He let out another long sigh. A man's heart was unpredictable. A moment ago, they were like brothers, but the next moment, they would betray him. Thinking about it made him feel cold. It was better to serve the plants. They could not speak, but they would not betray him either. He got up and opened the window. A bright moon hung diagonally in the night sky, illuminating the small courtyard. 2 men in black stood quietly under the plum tree, motionless. He did not care. At this point, life and death were no longer in his control. He might as well go all out and kill them. Thinking of this, he shook his head. The public house would not let him fall into the hands of the Rin public house. After all, he knew a lot of Master Xiao Taiying's private affairs. Once it was revealed, Master Xiao Taiying would be in danger. Master Xiao Taiying could not tolerate any mistakes, so he would not send people to kill him. However, Lady Xiao Taiying might not. Moreover, there was still Chu Li. He would definitely think of ways to affect Lady Xiao Taiying. Even if he escaped, he would not have a good life in the Rin public house. It was fine when he was useful, but once he was useless, the Rin public house would not be kind to traitors. After thinking about it, his future was destined to be miserable. He gritted his teeth and said, "Zhou Yucourt of Zhou." He hated Zhou Yuding to the core. He could not wait to tear him apart. Unfortunately, he could not even protect himself now. It would be difficult for him to take revenge. Bang, bang. Suddenly, 2 bright flowers exploded in the sky. A few black shadows floated into the courtyard. The 2 protectors in black immediately threw out a signal, illuminating the small courtyard. Gu Litong saw it clearly. 10 people rushed towards the 2 protectors in black. In the blink of an eye, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The 2 masters in the hall rushed out to help, but it was difficult to change the situation. Gu Litong pursed his lips and sneered. It seemed that the public house was determined to kill him. When he thought of this, he felt disheartened. "Brother Gu, we meet again." Chu Li's clear voice suddenly came from behind. Gu Litong turned around quickly. Chu Li was sitting at the square table, smiling. The light gently flickered on his face. His eyes were bright and full of heroic spirit. "Chu Li," Gu Litong sneered. "This time, you're satisfied, aren't you?" Chu Li smiled. "Brother Gu, do you think I'm here to kill you?" "What else?" Gu Litong frowned. "Brother Gu, you misunderstood." Chu Li waved his hand. "I'm here to save you under the third lady's order." "Is the third lady that kind?" Gu Litong was skeptical. The third lady was fair in her rewards and punishments. However, when it was time to kill, she was merciless. She was not soft-hearted. In this situation, it was best to get rid of him. Chu Li said, "You've made a mistake. It's reasonable for you to be expelled from the public house. However, the third lady appreciates talent. You should go to the periphery to work. Once you've made a contribution, you can be transferred back to the public house." "I'll definitely return to the public house." Gu Litong gritted his teeth and scoffed. Chu Li laughed. Gu Litong said coldly, "Do you think I can't go back?" "It's not that easy to go back to the public house." Chu Li spoke in a casual manner. He ignored the sound of metal clashing outside. In just a short while, 20 Rin public house protectors rushed over. The protectors from the E-public house were suddenly at a disadvantage. 1 against 2, the situation was not good. However, Chu Li's expression did not change. It was as if he did not see anything. He spoke leisurely with Gu Litong. "Don't forget, there's still Zhou Yuding." "Zhou Yuding?" Gu Litong squeezed these 3 words out of his mouth. He said coldly, "I'll settle this score with him." Chu Li laughed. "You've offended Master Xiao Taiying. Brother Zhou has a good father. Without someone to rely on, how can you fight against Brother Zhou?" "Humph," Gu Litong sneered. He was very confident in his talent. As long as he did his job well, the third lady would definitely promote him. Under Master Xiao Taiying, high official Zhou's words might be useful. However, the third lady was fair, so he was not afraid of high official Zhou's tricks. Chu Li looked at him and smiled. "It seems that Brother Gu has not slept well these few days." "Thank you for your concern." Gu Litong sneered. Chu Li said, "Brother Gu, you must be very curious, right?" "Curious about what?" "Why did Brother Zhou suddenly betray you and backstab you?" "You know," Chu Li smiled, "I helped Brother Zhou redeem Yu Jiao. I used 100,000 taels of silver to buy your future." "It was you." Gu Litong was stunned. He immediately became furious and stood up. He wanted to smash Chu Li's smiling eyes. "You," Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. "I didn't care about Brother Gu's previous provocation. However, you provoked me again and again. I had no choice but to do this. Speaking of which, I was forced." Bullsh *T. Gu Litong gritted his teeth. Chu Li still had a smile on his face. "Everyone has a weakness. Brother Zhou is infatuated. Brother Gu, you're filial to your mother. If you bribed the old lady's maid and said a few bad words to anger the old lady, what would the consequences be?" "You." Gu Litong's expression changed. Chu Li laughed. "I'm just joking. If the Run public house really wanted to accept you, they wouldn't ignore the old lady. So, if you really went to the Run public house, you can imagine the consequences. Are you coming with me? Chu Li, you're really a despicable person." Gu Litong said coldly. Chu Li smiled. "I'm a gentleman to my friends, but I'm a despicable person to my enemies. Brother Gu, it's better for us to be friends. Let's go." Gu Litong scoffed. Don't you want to kill me? Chu Li shook his head and smiled. If I wanted to kill you, do you think you'd be alive now? Gu Litong was silent. He had experienced Chu Li's treachery and did not dare to boast. Chu Li went to the window and threw a signal into the sky. Boom! A loud thunder resounded in the sky. A golden sword appeared in the sky. It was shining brightly in the night. In the blink of an eye, 10 public house protectors rushed into the courtyard. The situation changed again. The two sides were in a stalemate. The courtyard was crowded, and they were fighting. Chu Li stopped and turned to look at Gu Litong. Let's go. Chapter 86. Chu Li pulled Gu Litong and disappeared from the house. Gu Litong could not open his eyes because of the wind. He could only see the distorted light and shadow through the gap of his eyelids. He could not see anything except the whistling wind. Under the strong wind, he suddenly stopped and rushed forward. Soon, waves of nausea began to form in his chest. It gradually condensed and became stronger. After a while, Chu Li suddenly stopped. Gu Litong could no longer stop vomiting. He bent over and vomited a mouthful of food. Chu Li looked at the small courtyard in the distance and shook his head. The protectors of the ruined public house still did not come out at this time. They were really patient. They wanted to take advantage of the two groups of people fighting to suddenly attack and destroy them. Gu Litong wiped the corner of his mouth with a handkerchief and straightened up. His face was bitter. He found himself standing on the roof. The bright moon was like a jade wheel. The night breeze was gentle and cool. It was a beautiful night. Chu Li stood with his hands behind his back. His green robe fluttered as he looked into the distance thoughtfully. Gu Litong secretly shook his head. Chu Li was known as the youth champion. At first, he thought it was ridiculous that a scribe was called the champion. Now, it seemed that the rumors were true. His light body technique was too powerful. Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror and focused on the movement over there to see if there was a backup plan. He did not want the ruined public house to take advantage of them. After a careful investigation, he was relieved. The ruined public house was divided into 3 groups. Gu Litong's original 4 protectors, 20 who were fighting, and 20 who were hiding in the dark more than 200 meters away from the small courtyard. Chu Li was so careful because he was worried that Lu Yurom would divide them into 4 groups. He was also afraid that there would be grandmasters. Fortunately, everything was under control. 40 people squeezed in the small courtyard and fought. They were evenly matched and in a stalemate. As time passed, the strength of both sides was wearing down. They were struggling to hold on, waiting for their own people to appear. The leader of the 20 protectors of the ruined public house was a middle-aged, rough man. He was like a lion with a lion's nose and big eyes. He squatted in the shadow in the corner, motionless, and listened. He anxiously calculated the time. Not only would he not let his side suffer too many casualties, but he would also not let the other side have too much strength. He had to find the best time to intervene and eliminate them in one fell swoop. That would be a great achievement. If they rushed over now, their side would suffer fewer casualties, but the people from the public house would have the strength to escape. If they could not kill a few of them, it would be a failure. This time, his goal was to kill them. He had painstakingly set up this trap and obtained this opportunity. If he scared them away, it would be his own fault. If the attack was too late, the manor would suffer too great a loss. The anger of the guards could burn her to death, and the young lady might not be able to protect her. "Big brother, who should we rush over now?" someone asked in a low voice. The middle-aged man shook his head. "Young Mrs. Plans are flawless. This time, we'll give them a ruthless blow." Someone laughed. The middle-aged man turned his head and glared at him. "Lower your voice." Big Brother Who, you're being too careful. Can these idiots from the E-Public House see through young lady's plan? Don't underestimate the E-Public House. I bet they didn't expect this to be a trap. Don't be complacent too early. The middle-aged man said impatiently, "Lower your voice and listen over there. If we're late, we won't have a good ending." Everyone fell silent. Each of them rubbed their palms together, ready to go all out. A great merit was placed in front of them, waiting for them to reach out and take it. Chu Li saw through the middle-aged man's thoughts from afar. He was also waiting for the best opportunity. He wanted to take down the guards before the middle-aged man and not give them a chance. Time passed slowly. A quarter of an hour seemed like an hour. Chu Li suddenly threw something into the air. Bang! A clap of thunder resounded through the night sky. A golden sword with flowing light appeared in the night sky, shining with the bright moon. 20 public house protectors rushed out of the darkness and shot into the courtyard. Their martial arts were stronger, and they were full of vigor. They rushed in like they were crushing dry weeds. In the blink of an eye, the Run public house protectors fell to the ground. When the middle-aged man reacted and rushed over with his men, more than 20 Rin public house protectors were completely annihilated. The middle-aged man rushed in and saw the situation. He immediately shouted, "Retreat!" Chu Li let out a long roar. The public house protectors who were originally chasing stopped. Chu Li turned his head and smiled. "Brother Gu, it's a success. Let's go." Gu Litong was baffled. He could not hear the fighting sounds in the courtyard from so far away. Chu Li pulled him into the courtyard. "Junior Chu," the protectors of the public house greeted him one after another in high spirits. Chu Li was known as the youth master of the public house. Moreover, he had grasped the perfect timing. It was admirable. Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. "Brothers, you've worked hard. You're welcome." Everyone returned the salute. "Brother Chu, why do we stop chasing? It's important to be content. If we continue to chase, there might be other traps. We can't be careless. The Rin public house is too cunning." They had suffered many losses and could not guard against them. Chu Li was right to be cautious. This time, they killed more than 28 masters. It was a rare victory. "We've finally vented our anger." Everyone was happy. Those who were injured were also smiling. Chu Li said, "Everyone, retreat as soon as possible. Listen to Brother Chu." Everyone said. Chu Li suddenly frowned and waved his hand. Everyone stopped talking and looked at him. Chu Li frowned and said, "They're really coming. Go south quickly." Everyone rushed out of the courtyard with the injured and followed Chu Li to the south. A middle-aged man followed Chu Li. He was the most prestigious protector among the protectors, Cheng Wenhui. "Brother Chu, what happened?" Cheng Wenhui asked in a low voice. Gu Litong was accompanied by 2 protectors. Chu Li did not have to do anything. Chu Li said, "They have another group of ambushes." Fortunately, Cheng Wenhui broke out in a cold sweat. This Rin public house. Every time they fought with the Rin public house, they were completely defeated and suffered many losses. They hated and felt despair, but also a trace of fear. Chu Li said, "For ambushes, they're really powerful." From the omniscient mirror, he saw that there were 20 masters in the 4th group. They were scattered around the town. Some were hidden in a residence, some were hidden in an inn, and some were on the street. After receiving the signal, they quickly assembled. It took some time for Chu Li to calmly avoid them. Chu Li was greatly impressed by this method of dispersing the troops. It was really impossible to guard against it. It was obvious that the Rin public house managed this town well and usually hid their identity. Chu Li led them to the south, east, north, and west. They went around and around until Cheng Wenhui and the others were dizzy. In the end, they escaped from the small town and went into the vast forest. Chu Li led the way in front. The group passed through the forest. From time to time, they jumped on the treetops and dashed under the moonlight. They were all innate masters with endless inner energy and extraordinary endurance. They ran for half the night and only stopped when the first light of dawn appeared. Chu Li's green robe fluttered as he turned his head and smiled. All right, we finally got rid of them. Everyone, take a rest. They all breathed a sigh of relief and lay down lazily under the tree. Even innate masters could not stand running like this. Gu Litong felt like his body was falling apart. He was carried by two innate masters. Although he did not use any strength, the wind was like riding a horse. It was uncomfortable. Chu Li came to Gu Litong's side. Brother Gu, you're almost there. Back to where? Gu Litong scoffed. Jinghai town. It's not far from here. We can get there tomorrow. Gu Litong shut his mouth and closed his eyes. Cheng Wenhui smiled. Brother Chu Li, you send Brother Gu there. I'll bring them away. Chu Li pondered. Cheng Wenhui smiled. After we pass Howling Wind Town, there will be people there to support us. I'll be careful. This time, they had hurt the Rin public house. They would definitely surround them and mobilize all their forces to destroy them. The Rin public house had become stronger and stronger over the years. They had infiltrated the Chongming Road. They did not know when a master from the Rin public house would appear. It was impossible to guard against them. They had to be extremely careful. Chu Li glanced at Gu Litong and sighed. Everyone, let's go back together. Brother Chu Li, there's no need. Cheng Wenhui said. Chu Li shook his head. Cheng Wenhui no longer refused. He was also guilty. Lu Yurong's wisdom was far better than Master Xiao Taiying's. It was really scary. It was said that Lady Xiao Taiying's wisdom was also extraordinary. It was a pity that she was only in charge of the criminal law of the public house. I can go by myself. There's no need to escort me. Gu Litong opened his eyes. Chu Li smiled. Gu Litong scoffed. All their thoughts are on you. They won't care about me. That's not necessarily true. Chu Li shook his head. After resting for a while, Chu Li brought them to continue their journey. The original distance was more than 1,000 miles. After a few turns, they ran more than 2,000 miles. It took them 5 days to return to the public house. Chapter 87. The sun was setting in the west, its afterglow covering the lake. Just as Chu Li returned to the East Garden, Suru rushed over and brought him to the Jade Guardian Island. Just as he reached the bottom of the stairs, he heard the sound of a zither drifting over. The sound was intense, and there was a hint of killing intent in it. He turned to look at Suru. Suru sighed and said softly, Lady Xiao had an argument with Master Xiao. Because of me? Yes. Suru said softly, Eldest Master is very unhappy. Chu Li smiled as he had a rough idea of what had happened. He then used the omniscient mirror to look at her and understood what had happened. Gu Litong was personally expelled from the residence by the eldest young master. He would only hire people who had both ability and integrity. He would never hire someone who wasn't virtuous and talented. According to him, since Gu Litong had been expelled from the public house, he was no longer a member of the public house. His fate was up to the heavens. Moreover, the Ren public house did not want to kill him. They only wanted to recruit him, so there was no need for them to meddle. The news that Chu Li and his men had killed 20 of the Ren public house's protectors had reached the public house, and Master Xiao Taiying was furious. Lu Yurong, that lunatic, should not be provoked. The Ren public house was powerful, and the public house could not withstand it. They should try to avoid conflict and recuperate. However, this time they took the initiative to attack. That woman, Lu Yurong, would definitely retaliate crazily. If 20 people from the Rin public house died, they would kill at least 40. This time, Xiao Qi had given the order without permission. She had disregarded his authority and was completely lawless. Master Xiao Taiying originally wanted to punish him, but Xiao Qi did not agree, so the two of them quarreled. Xiao Qi scolded Master Xiao Taiying for being pedantic. Lu Yurong, that woman, was insatiable and did not know when to stop. It was ridiculous to talk about being friendly with such a woman. The public house could never compromise. Only by hurting Lu Yurong would they be able to maintain peace. Now, the protectors in the public house were in low spirits, and the situation was not good. Xiao Qi was in charge of internal affairs, cleaning up the atmosphere in the residence, while eldest master was in charge of external affairs, mobilizing the protectors. When Xiao Qi saw that the High Duke's public house was being restricted in every aspect, she finally could not take it anymore and made this move. Suru lowered her voice. "Be careful, Mrs. Not Happy." Chuli asked, "Are you all right?" Suru waved her hand and smiled. It's not the first time they've quarreled. They quarrel every few days, but it'll be over in 2 days. However, you have to avoid the eldest master. It just so happens that I want to focus on practicing the sentient menace. Yes, it's best if you don't come out of the courtyard. No problem. The two of them stepped into the stargazing tower and came to the 3rd floor. Xiao Qi was facing the window, with her back facing them. She sat in front of the desk and played the guzheng. Chu Li's heart skipped a beat when he saw her beautiful back. "My lady," Suru called out softly, "Chu Li is here." The sound of the guzheng stopped abruptly. Xiao Qi turned around, her beautiful face cold. She pointed at the white cattail hassock. Chu Li walked over and sat on the cattail hassock, watching him quietly. The faint fragrance from her body wafted into his nose, refreshing his mind. She looked at him with her clear eyes. "You did very well this time. It was very dangerous." Lu Yurong arranged for 4 groups of people. Xiao Qi gently nodded. "She's full of wisdom. She's indeed difficult to deal with. The Run public house's infiltration of us is too strong." Chu Li muttered, "Jinghai's entire route has been infiltrated. It's a ghastly sight." Xiao Qi's face darkened. Chu Li said, "If anything happens, they can intercept our communications. We must take precautions." Xiao Qi's eyes flickered. Chu Li sighed. "Jinghai's route has almost become their backyard. This is just Jinghai's route. I'm afraid the other routes in the public house are not optimistic. There were 12 routes in the world. Each public house guarded 1 route, and each route was divided into 6 subroutes. They passed through Jing Hai subroute." Suru tugged at his sleeve. Chu Li pretended not to see it and continued to say, "At this point, our protectors are not safe at all. If word gets out, I'm afraid people's hearts will be shaken, and the consequences will be unpredictable." Xiao Qi's face darkened. Suru whispered, "Stop talking." Chu Li acted as if he did not hear it and continued to say, "My lady, if this goes on, the public house will only exist in name only. We'll be at the mercy of others." "Shut up," Xiao Qi scoffed. Chu Li quietly looked at her. Xiao Qi's face darkened and said coldly, "I didn't expect the situation to be so serious." Suru said, "My lady, it's not that serious, right?" Chu Li sighed at her. "It's more serious than what I said. Think about it. When Lady Xiao goes out, they can assassinate you whenever they want. How scary is that? Lady Xiao's protectors are enough to handle it." Suru scoffed. "Chu, Li shook his head. 10 people can handle it. 100 people can handle it. But what about 200? They can mobilize people at will without us noticing. They're treating our public house as their own. Su Ru did not say anything. After a long time, Xiao Qi sighed and shook her head. Chu Li did not say anything else. It was useless to say more. Where's Gu Litong? Su Ru changed the topic. Chu Li said he's at Jinghai town. It'll be hard for him to come back. Xiao Qi frowned. Big brother won't let him go. Actually, he's a useful person. Why don't you take him under your command? His temperament isn't good enough. It's hard for him to take on big responsibilities, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li sighed. What a pity. He could use Gu Litong. With the omniscient mirror, he could see his thoughts at any time. If there was a slight change, he could see it and beat him. Moreover, Gu Litong also had a fatal weakness. If he could use it, he would not have to worry about betrayal. Observe him for a while, Xiao Qi said. If he performs well, then transfer him over. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi also had the ability to see through people's hearts. She dared to use him. It was because she had such ability that she knew how to observe people's hearts. It was too demanding to have both ability and integrity. She was tolerant and tolerant. She was different from Master Xiao Taiying's arrogance. Their styles were in conflict. Xiao Qi looked at him quietly. Chu Li, you did well this time. It's a pity that you can't claim credit. Chu Li smiled. My lady, don't say that. Xiao Qi said, stay in the public house and don't go out. The Tempest Temple run public house, and Lu Yurong will take revenge. Okay, I'll stay in the public house and cultivate. Next month, second eldest sister will go to Jinghai town to celebrate her birthday. Xiao Qi frowned. You should go with her. Jinghai town. Chu Li frowned. Su Ru quickly said, my lady, isn't it too dangerous? The Tempest Temple and Run Public House wanted to deal with him. Wouldn't it be suicide if he went out? Xiao Qi said, cultivate the sentient menace to the 3rd level within a month. With the addition of imminent skyline, you will be able to protect yourself. Although she did not cultivate the sentient menace, she knew the changes of each level. At the 3rd level, it would be difficult to hurt him. His inner energy would be able to reduce half of the damage. With the addition of imminent skyline, it would be enough for him to protect himself. Chu Li looked troubled. The 3rd level. I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Anyway, you do as you see fit. Xiao Qi said. Chu Li saw a painting on the table. He smiled. Is this lady's masterpiece? Xiao Qi took the painting and passed it to him. On it was a painting of a fierce tiger coming down the mountain. It was so imposing that it seemed like it would pounce out of the painting at any time. Chu Li sighed. Such a strong killing intent. His heart moved. He vaguely felt that this painting was beneficial to him. Looking at the tiger would help him cultivate the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait. Far from it, Xiao Qi said, I only know what killing intent is after seeing Lu Buiyuan's painting. Chu Li asked, Lady Xiao, you have Lu Buiyuan's painting? Lu Buiyuan was a master painter from the previous dynasty. He was especially good at painting tigers. Other people painted the tiger's skin, flesh, and bones. When he painted the tiger, he painted the tiger's aura and spirit. The tiger paintings he painted were known as the best and priceless. I have a few. Do you want to see them? Can I see them? Young Ru, send them to him later. Xiao Qi said, he'll enjoy them for a month. Thank you, Lady Xiao. Chu Li was overjoyed. Xiao Qi waved her hand. Chu Li tactfully said goodbye and left. He returned to the courtyard on the Jade Guardian Island. He pushed the door open and entered. The small courtyard was bathed in red by the setting sun. Xueling was dressed in a moon-white outfit. She was slowly and gently practicing the 8 crescent cryptic forms. When she heard the sound, she turned her head. Her beautiful face was shocked. Chu Li said, "Why are your eyes so wide open?" Xueling quickly stopped practicing. "Master, when did you come back?" "Just came back." Chu Li entered the living room. Xueling followed him in. "You haven't eaten, right?" "Yes." Chu Li lazily sat on the armchair and let out a long sigh. The chase and escape had tired him out. Now he could completely relax. Xueling got busy. She quickly brewed tea and served it. Then she went to cook. By the time Chu Li finished his cup of tea, Xueling had already made 4 side dishes and served them. She also carried a jar of fine wine and poured him a full cup. "Master, please fill your stomach first. I'll make supper later." Chu Li smelled the tempting aroma and nodded in satisfaction. He picked up the dishes and drank the wine. He listened to Xueling talk about the major events that happened in the public house. Creak. The courtyard door was pushed open. Suru came in. She carried a long box with a purple luster. When she saw Chu Li eating with a satisfied face, she pursed her lips and smiled. "You're so lucky. Paintings." Chu Li put down the wine cup and went forward to take it. Suru passed it to him. "There are a total of 10 of Lu Buyuan's paintings. You have to be careful. Don't damage them. Lady Xiao treasures them very much. If it weren't for your meritorious service, Lady Xiao wouldn't be willing to take them out." You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.